Okay, thank you. I feel like we were just here.
Deja
Am I
vu.
dreaming? I feel like I saw all these people yesterday.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Baxter,
Present.
Commissioner Flores,
Ready to roll.
Commissioner Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Powell,
Present.
Commissioner Sachs, Commissioner Wise,
Here.
and Vice Mayor Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
If you're able, please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
All right. May we approach today's business as task of faith to do our best within our power to provide positive leadership on behalf of our community and those who live and work here, that our decisions meet the standards of divine compassion for all. Amen.
Amen. Do we have notice?
Yes.
Proof of publication, and if we could, please swear in everyone.
All those wishing to testify or speak on today's quasi-judicial items, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Yes, and please let the record reflect Commissioner Sachs is here.
We need a motion to receive and file proof of publication.
I have a motion by Commissioner Weiss, a second by Commissioner Flores. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0. Okay.
We have one modification to the agenda to move item number 3, DOA 2025-01903, Military Belvedere Shopping Center, Mavis Tire, move it from the regular agenda to the consent agenda.
And that's all for,
And that's all.
okay. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. I have a motion by Commissioner Marino, a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Please say that the motion carries 7-0. Do we have anyone would like to pull items from consent? Okay. Any disclosures for consent? We will start to my right. Commissioner Marino.
Yes, I believe I spoke with Don Herring on this one. Thank you.
On consent items.
1 and 3.
On consent item, item 1, Palmwood rezoning, I spoke with Don Herring. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
No disclosures.
Vice Mayor
No
Woodward.
disclosures.
No disclosures.
No disclosures.
On item number 3, I had verbal communications with Scott Backman.
And for Sachs, on consent agenda, item number 1, no disclosures, as well as item number 2, no disclosures.
On item number 1 for myself, Palmwood, I had verbal communication with Don Herring, and for item number 3, I have emails that have been filed with the clerk and verbal communication with Josh Nichols.
Should we?
That is it for
No,
consent.
this is on regular agenda. This is mine.
I will entertain a motion to approve
It's
consent.
on regular.
I have a motion by Commissioner Weiss, a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0. Moving to regular.
Yes. Item number 2, EAC 2025-02046, Place of Hope at Rinker Campus. The request before the board is a modification specifically to the previously approved Class A conditional use for assembly nonprofit to restart the commencement of development timeframe. And I don't believe we have any cards, but we can turn it over to the applicant if you would like a presentation.
Let's start with disclosures. Commissioner Marino? No, thank you. Commissioner Powell?
I have no disclosures.
Vice Mayor Woodward?
No disclosures.
Commissioner Flores? For item number 2, regular.
No disclosures.
Commissioner Weiss?
No disclosures.
And Commissioner Sacks?
I do have disclosures. For the Place of Hope at the Rinker campus, I have communications email with Jean Ducharme from Courtyard Hearing, and spoke with her on 8/26/26. And all the emails have been provided to the clerk. Thank you.
I also, for item number 2, have emails filed with the clerk and verbal communication with Charles Bender. Okay. If you'd like, the applicant may proceed with your presentation.
Good morning, Jeannie Ducharme with Courtyard and Hearing, and today we're presenting Place of Hope at Rinker Campus. So as Wendy had stated, we're here for an EAC, and EAC is an expedited consideration application to amend a previously approved development order for a nonprofit assembly use. Before we get into the presentation, I wanted to disclose the about Place of Hope and what they do for the community.
Please forgive me. Could you pull the mic a little bit more towards you? Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry. Is that better?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Place of Hope works with the most vulnerable young adults and 16, 17, 18-year-old children in our community that are vulnerable, who have been through the foster care system, and that's what they present, and this is what this campus is about. It's to provide transitional housing for young families of that nature that was through the foster care system. So for site context, the site is located on Boca Ria Road, which is just west of the Turnpike and is just south of Glades Road and north of Palmetto Parkway. So this is the overall site plan. Again, this is just to amend one Class A conditional use on the site, which is the assembly nonprofit. I'm going to provide a zoomed in version, but this is everything from your congregated living facility, the daycare that they offer on site for those residents, and I will jump into it. So this is the building and use that we're here today discussing. This is the assembly nonprofit use. It was originally approved in 2016, and Place of Hope is a nonprofit, so we've been dealing with funding, and finally we have the funding to move forward with building permit, and then at that time we were told that the development order had expired, and that's why we're here today. And so we're here to complete the project and get this development order renewed. And to bring up a context, me and District Commissioner Sacks spoke yesterday, is that in context, the purple square is the daycare that's on site that provides daycare for the people living there so they can further their career and attend work. And it's only for that daycare is only actually for the people living there. So that is in context to the assembly nonprofit. The assembly nonprofit is to hold, for the people that are living there to come together for events or Christmas or anything of that, or meetings, or movie night or anything of that nature. So that's what that specific building is being used for, and that's what we're here to complete and renew that development order. Thank you for your time and consideration this morning.
Thank you. Does staff have a presentation?
We don't have anything additional to say unless you have questions.
I will entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion by Commissioner Powell, a second by Commissioner Sacks.
I approve this.
Okay.
I think it's a wonderful idea, and I've spoken to the applicant. This is a beautiful place on Boca Rio. I know that we're going to be expanding Boca Rio Road soon, but I don't think it's going to be any issues. I know it's not going to be any issues with traffic, and I love the idea of having a child care center right there, and it's a beautiful place, and I applaud them for doing that. So I definitely approve of it. Thank you for asking, Mayor.
Amazing. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 7-0. We pulled 3, so moving on to number 4, ULDC revisions.
Yes, item number 4 is a privately proposed revision And for fitness center located within the Commerce Future Land Use, this has been before the board for Phase 1 and for request for permission to advertise as well as first reading. This is final adoption. We haven't done any additional changes since the board saw it last month. Would you like a response from the applicant? Or
I have a motion by Commissioner Flores, a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor?
And wait,
Any opposed?
Yeah, no cards.
I'd like to spend a little more time on this if we could, Mayor.
you have two.
Okay, we have cards. Forgive me.
Good.
Please call
Thank
them
you.
up.
Appreciate it.
I got Barbara Roth, Jim Knight. Long night, Jim? Hard to read your handwriting here. Jessica Odom.
Okay. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. And Commissioner Flores, what happened yesterday is I jumped the gun. I had a card ready for today to submit, and it got put in with the others. So that was the confusion. Thank you for your patience. We have supported this fitness use in the Ag Reserve as part of commerce. We understand that the applicant has asked for an increase in the square footage on that. And forgive me, Barbara Roth representing Cobra, and we do support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Jim Knight, 740 Havana Drive, Boca Raton, Florida. Not a rough night. I have terrible handwriting. I was supposed to be a doctor, but I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. So that's what happened. Anyway. Dyslexia, ADHD, all that good stuff growing up as a kid. One of those Ritalin childs, if you could imagine. So anyway, very much in support of this. I think it's great to see. I know the commission's been behind it and excited to see this happen. A lot of recreational uses. There's a lot of opportunity for the kids, the schools, and everything else. And hopefully you'll support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. Throughout this entire process, we've felt an incredible amount of support from the county, and we are truly grateful for the time, the thought, and consideration. I'd like to also thank the planning
Can
and
you
county.
identify yourself, please?
Oh, yeah.
For the record?
Jessica Odom, and I live 140 Greenbrier Drive, Palm Springs. I'd like to also thank the planning and county staff who have worked through the details of this proposal with us. I know there's a tremendous amount of work that happens behind the scenes, and we sincerely appreciate the guidance through this process. Lastly, I'd like to thank our WVBA families, athletes, and coaches who have supported us on this journey. With our club's 11th anniversary coming up, we are so excited for this new chapter. It would mean so much to have you all at the grand opening celebration. If you would, I'll have our people, which is me, call your people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you very much. I think what this underlies is the fact that we started out with warehouses on this one for trucks, bays that were large enough for large trucks, and it has come before us now as not being able to provide tenants for those warehouses. And now we're looking at recreation, which I think is wonderful. As Barbara Roth expressed and Ms. Jessica Odom also expressed, we have a need for recreation. My issue with this, and I have two issues. One, yes, we do need more recreation facilities here in the Ag Reserve, all around our county. But what I am concerned with is that we will have trucks at the same time as we have recreation. So I want to be sure that the staff has noted, and I'm going to ask staff right now to make sure that there is a clear demarcation for children's parking, for twisters and other recreational places for kids, and those for the trucks as well. If I may, if you
Are
could.
you asking that parking spaces be labeled?
I'm just asking that there's a clear demarcation between the trucks coming into those bays, because this is a dual purpose now. We have, we have commercial warehouse commerce here, where there's going to be big trucks, small trucks, medium trucks, they're trucks, as well as parents dropping their kids off for recreation. Have we listed that as a special condition?
We do have that as part of the supplementary standard, that if they're going to introduce recreation in the commerce, that they have to also provide us documentation on where the parking is, how the trucks will circulate, that there isn't going to be a conflict between the vehicles. So that's on page E8 in line 32. So we've included it as a code requirement.
Very good. I appreciate that, and I appreciate that it's on the record. And hopefully in the future, we won't have to have an issue where we change from commerce for warehouses to commerce for recreation. I appreciate that. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, this change that we're making is not site-specific. This is a change to commerce in the ULDC,
Correct.
right? Okay, so any future ones, what we're doing, it's not just this one.
It'll be fitness that's located in commerce.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Please see that it passes 6-1. Okay. On to number 5.
Item number 5 is the large-scale data center moratorium, and this is a presentation for first reading. And we do have cards, but we can turn it to Darren first.
Sure. So this is for the first reading of the large-scale data center moratorium ordinance. The ordinance is for the earlier of 1 year or the adoption of changes to the ULDC or the comp plan dealing with data centers. The ordinance defines a large-scale data center as a single-location facility containing primarily electronic equipment used to store and process digital information with an anticipated monthly peak load of 50 megawatts or more. We've decided to use the 50 megawatt threshold because that is the threshold used in Senate Bill 484, which is our basis for enacting this ordinance in the face of Senate Bill 180. Senate Bill 484 was adopted by the legislature after and with the full knowledge of Senate Bill 180 and still provides counties with the ability to regulate large load customers, which are those above the 50 megawatt threshold. So I do not recommend reducing that 50 megawatt threshold. In order to address applicants fragmenting their sites to get below the 50 megawatt threshold, we have defined a single location as synonymous with the definition of site in the ULDC. And that definition is the total area within the property boundaries of a principal parcel to be developed or contiguous parcels intended for development under a common scheme or plan. This definition will allow us to treat all the parcels as one for purposes of calculating the 50 megawatt threshold. The moratorium portion applies to all comp plan and zoning applications for large-scale data centers. We added a requirement that if someone wants to apply for a data center below the 50 megawatt threshold, they will need to provide staff with a certification from a professional engineer that they are indeed below that 50 megawatt threshold. And we also added language exempting the properties damaged by the hurricanes listed in Senate Bill 180 to ensure compliance with Senate Bill 180. And then finally, this again will only last the earlier of 1 year from adoption or the adoption of the relevant changes to our ULDC and comp plan.
Thank you. We have some cards. We'll take public comment now.
All right, we have Sue Loisel, Linda Smith, Barbara Roth, I believe it says Gary Brown, and Lisa Johnson.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Sue Loisel, and I'm speaking as a Palm Beach County resident and as the Development Impact Committee Chair for the Art and Homeowners Association. I respectfully ask the board to proceed carefully with the large-scale data center definition and moratorium because it is not a routine zoning issue. These facilities can involve massive electrical demand, high-intensity cooling systems, significant water demand, waste, heat, noise, energy, service needs, and major infrastructure impacts. During extreme heat, cooling, and water loads may also increase pressure on water supplies. and raise the heat dome concerns for nearby communities. Those impacts need a real review before permanent rules are adopted. The heat dome also affects the water and algae, so we're by many of the resources related to the canals and all of the Everglades restoration, and these heat domes can also affect that. So please be considerate of that. The definition must be broad enough to capture these facilities and how they actually function, including computing, data storage, etc. If the definition is too narrow, projects could be renamed, phased, or reclassified to avoid the protections the county intends. A moratorium is also enforceable and used wisely. Please bring in independent outside experts, including land use, utility, environmental infrastructure, and water resources, and use the county resource, such as the Water Resource Task Force that Commissioner Weiss and Vice Mayor often participate in. Does the county's moratorium still apply, or could the site fall outside the county zoning jurisdiction and outside the moratorium? The answer needs to be placed on record so residents know whether the moratorium actually protects the sites of concern. Please do not rush the rules or technical use. This resource intensive and this consequential. Use the moratorium to close loopholes and gather expert analysis, protect water and infrastructure, and make sure the code is clear and enforceable and strong enough to protect Palm Beach County for decades. The Zoning Commission I went to that, and they said that the 50 megawatt was just too broad, and they denied the definition of large-scale data centers and asked the attorney to come back and spend more time to include other things besides just 50 megawatt. Electric is not the only component. There's water, there's all this. So in the definition of large scale, it needs to include all those other components. And I know in your narrative you will have other items or in the details, but it needs to be in the definition. Will a single location treating all parcels as one for 50 megawatts on the same site above, will they
It's 3 minutes,
combine?
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm still Linda Smith, Jupiter, Florida. So much for the comments about local government moving slowly. I applaud the speed of the data center ordinance and moratorium moving forward. Actually, I was a little caught off guard. First step in less than a month. Arden, I'm so glad Arden has been at the table. Palm Beach County owes Arden a debt of gratitude for running to ground Project Tango. My question would be, does Arden approve the 50 megawatt threshold? In light of the Florida statutes, how does Pasco County limit the definition to only 2.5 megawatts? Arden might prefer that parameter. Then there was the time frame for measurement. States is 50 megawatts calculated as the highest average load over a 15-minute interval at a single location. Location, okay. The term does not include a load aggregate across multiple locations owned by the same customer. There are 2 parcels, 2 owners at Project Tango. I guess they would be separate. A large data center may still be coming to a property next to Arden or an unsuspecting community. Will they, let's pick a number, accept 5 freestanding air-conditioned structures that has an anticipated load of 50 megawatts calculated as the highest average load over a 15-minute interval? Properties. There is a need for additional supplemental standards to address low-frequency noise and water. How much is West Palm Beach about to pay to build a desalination plant? Large-scale data centers could be required to use desalinated water for all their processed water with proper disposal of the brine, of course. Generators. Where's the discussion on generators? Are they diesel? Are they natural gas? What is their sound criteria? They all need to cycle on long enough to come up to temperature every month for maintenance. We haven't even started a conversation about heat or renewable energy sources. Large-scale data centers could buy renewable energy credits from clean providers, not from waste incinerators. I do it, they can. This moratorium might affect 2 properties within the county, according to the report. How many properties in the Ag Reserve have been approved for workforce or essential housing that have not been built? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Barbara Roth, speaking on behalf of COBRA. Most of the issues we address are growth management issues, and people expect that's all COBRA does. In fact, we have over 20 committees. 2 of those committees are our health and wellness committees and our water and wetlands committees, which is basically our environmental oversight committee. They have really learned a great deal from these previous 2 speakers in particular, so I thank them, and they have informed me, and the concerns that we have are those that have been expressed previously this morning. We support looking into this and any studies because if we're talking about water quality, it's not just one issue in Palm Beach County, not just one area in Palm Beach County. It affects all of us. So COBRA does support this moratorium and the past 2 speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Johnson, representing the Acreage Landowners Association. The ALA supports the data center moratorium, and we want to thank Mayor Baxter for initiating it. We believe this time should be used to properly study these facilities before changing the ULDC, and the ALA is asked to be notified and involved in the process. This cannot just be about electricity. The county the study should include electricity, power demands and infrastructure required, water, cooling demand, groundwater and private wells, heat, the 24-hour cooling impacts beyond the property line. And I just wanted to let you know that I did submit a peer study heat report, and it was in the file, and it wasn't used. They said there wasn't a peer study one done, but it was in that. Just wanted to let you know. Noise and air quality, cooling equipment and backup generators, roads and emergency services, truck fire protection and emergency response, environmental, wetlands, wildlife, and other sensitive resources, including waste. Location, whether these facilities are appropriate near homes, schools, and whether heavy industrial zoning or stronger separation and conditions are needed. 8, wells, restriction of water wells to be drilled, and deep well injections. I also asked that BESS, BESS, which stands for Battery Energy Storage Systems, be specifically included in this moratorium and ULDC review. And I have printed this out to hand for you guys. BESS has its own fire emergency noise and environmental concerns that should not become loopholes around the new data center regulations. The new ULDC language needs to be specific, complete, so there's no loopholes. It should address the entire facility and its supporting infrastructure. Finally, what happens when the data center reaches its end of life and the owner walks away? Who pays for the removal of the buildings, generators, cooling equipment, batteries, and environmental safety materials? The taxpayers or the county should not inherit that responsibility. Please use this moratorium time to do the studies, including BESS, close the loopholes, establish clear standards and financial responsibilities from approval through closure. Thank you, Mayor Baxter, and thank you, commissioners.
Ms. Johnson, at the end of yesterday's meeting, we had discussed potentially putting together a task force and each district commissioner getting an appointment to that task force. If you would please reach out to my office.
I would really like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners and staff. Gary Brown, Palm Beach County Planning Commissioner, here today as a resident, 22231 Sands Point Drive, Boca Raton, Florida. I promise this won't be the longest 3 minutes of your morning. I'd like to share a few points for your consideration as you develop standards for hyperscale data centers during this moratorium. Let me begin with a point of reference. Approximately 1 mile from the recently proposed hyperscale data center sits FPL's West County Energy Center, one of North America's largest gas turbine electric generating facilities, with approximately 3,750 megawatts of generating capacity. So why does this matter? Under Section 692.203 and Sections 692.201 of the Florida statutes, establishes an electrical power plant as critical infrastructure. And this power plant is well within the 10-mile area addressed by state restrictions involving certain foreign principles. That makes full disclosure of the ultimate beneficial ownership of the recent proposed hyperscale property essential at the time of application. Because these facilities can be developed as shells, leased over time, disclosure cannot be a one and done. Ownership, tenancy, and operation control can change after approval. The county should require ongoing disclosure of the ultimate beneficial owner and every tenant, operator, co-tenant, co-applicant, or successor entity having ownership or operational interest with prompt notice whenever there's a material change. My second point is scale, and while this should not be treated as a conventional light industrial. Some may view hyperscale data centers as, it's a light industrial data processing. But the issue isn't the label, it's the scale. A recent application illustrates this point. A proposed hyperscale electrical demand of approximately 600 megawatts. For perspective, a 600 megawatts is comparable to the peak, let me say it again, peak residential demand of both the city of Boca Raton and unincorporated Boca Raton. For an industrial comparison, Century Aluminum's Mount Holly, South Carolina, Goose Creek primary aluminum smelter, it's a heavy industrial operation, has operated under a power contract providing 295 continuous megawatts. A 600 megawatt data center would be roughly twice that power level. May I have a few extra seconds to complete?
Commissioner Sachs has a question for you, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And you've done a lot of research on this area. And I, speaking on my behalf, and I'm sure on my colleagues, appreciate the intense study and the deep dive that you've done on this.
Thank you.
You've provided each of us, I'm sure, with a paper. Is that correct, that we all have this?
I'm going to distribute that through email, which you probably have seen lately, a few of those.
Okay, and I know that a lot of what you're going to discuss today has been contained in this so that we can review it. Would you say that, I have one question for you, and then as the mayor has done, I'd like to invite you to be part of our task force on behalf of District 5, if you would accept.
Thank you, I'd be honored.
Very good. Would you say that there would not be any possibility of having a hyperscale data center here in Palm Beach County?
Well, it depends on the conditions and what's going on at the time, which is the whole reason creating this. At this point, I kind of give you an analogy. You guys are flying the airplane. I'm just kind of trying to give you direction, maybe where to land this. So, again.
Good, very good. Thank you for your research. I appreciate it very much. And if you could be in contact with my office, and we'll put your name down for our task force.
Thank you.
On behalf of District 5.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Did you want him to continue, Commissioner Sachs, for a few seconds?
If that's okay with you, Mayor.
I'll give you 20 more seconds.
I'll try to finish up. Okay. Bottom line is that's not a conventional light industrial. That's utility scale. So as you consider a moratorium, I respectfully ask that these disclosures and scale standards be part of the process. Require disclosure before approval, again before operations begin, and semi-annual thereafter with prompt updates whatever material changes are made. Lastly, disclosure only has value if it stays current and can be independently verified and is enforceable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I will enter, we do not have any disclosures for this item, and that was all the cards. Presentation. Or do we just want to skip?
We did the presentation.
Motion to approve? Oh, Commissioner Flores. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank staff for getting on this so quickly. I think, we heard comments today as it relates to conditions potentially for the zoning classification, and so I think that was very helpful. I saw staff taking copious notes as folks were speaking, so, but you will have an opportunity as this moves forward in creating this new zoning code for large load users. And that will be quite, I expect to be quite comprehensive in how they are both defined and how the regulations around them. So with that, I would go ahead and move approval of this moratorium.
I have a motion. And I have a second by Commissioner Flores. We will continue with comments. Commissioner Flores?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring two items up that I would like you guys to consider when you're working on some of these rules. I don't remember the speaker, but they brought it up, decommissioning. I think that's a component that has to be discussed and should be embedded into whatever code changes that you guys make. And also, this is, I consider it an emerging technology, meaning we're in the very early phases of data center AI, hyperscale. So I hear that there's going to be a task force, but the task force shouldn't just sunset. I think whatever the task force we put together should continue to study how this technology continues to evolve and what potential impacts it could play in the future. So those are the two things that I want you guys to consider right from the get-go. And I think you guys know this is a sore subject for me, but do not come back to us at the end of this. Engage us throughout the process. Let us know where you're at. Gather our input, our feedback, so that when we get here, I don't know, how long is the moratorium?
A year.
1 year.
So that we're back here in 9-10 months.
So
We're
a
not
workshop
wrecking our
at
head.
some point.
Yeah, do a workshop, whatever, so that we can hear what each other are thinking. And I think that's always a good policy. All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, it was indicated that the Zoning Commission had some concerns. Could you just highlight, I know you made a couple of changes from the time it was before the Zoning Commission and today. Could you just highlight what those changes were?
Yeah, so the primary changes were we still kept the limit at the 50 megawatts. We're doing that because of the statute in Senate Bill 180. But the other changes that we made were we changed the definition of single location to site. We say, if you look on page E4, you see a single I guess it's like the fourth line up, a single location is synonymous with the definition of site per Article 1H2 definitions. And so what that does is it gives us the ability to prevent the fragmentation. And so that if they're, like, for instance, in the same MUPD, we can get them all to calculate their combined megawattage. But I think, as we know, Project Tango was asking for 600 megawatts. I think we're talking about numbers far exceeding 50 megawatts.
Right. And I see there's 10 other counties that have implemented something. We seem to be pretty much in line with the majority of what the other counties are doing.
That's
1 year,
correct.
50 megawatts.
1 year and 50 megawatts. Some of them have gone lower, but that's been against advice of their council. So, of course, it's your discretion, but I don't recommend it. And then what else did we do? We added language for the hurricanes Debbie, Helene, and Milton, which are the ones that are referenced in Senate Bill 180, that this wouldn't apply to any properties reconstructing after those hurricanes. And then we added the professional engineer requirement for the certifying the 50 megawatt load. And was there anything else? I think that was it.
I think those are good changes, good feedback from the zoning commission to make those changes. And I feel comfortable with everything you've proposed. I would say I agree with Commissioner Flores on this task force idea. I mean, I may actually be wanting to appoint myself because I want to know everything that's coming at this. I want to hear from all the experts myself because ultimately we're the decision makers that have to make this decision. And there's a lot to learn, and I'm expecting you'll be bringing us great experts throughout the next year, but a year can fly by pretty quickly. So I don't want to be at the end of this and trying to cram it all into another 12-hour meeting. So if that's going to be a possibility, I might make myself my own appointee just because I want to know everything I can about it when it's coming. So with that, thank you.
Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the staff. Who is our contact person on the staff for this issue?
Yes.
Jerome Ati.
All right. Okay. Very, very good. Well, let me ask you, Mr. Ati, some of the issues with regard to this being an issue of first impression, will you be reviewing our state of Florida restrictions as well as federal when you as you move forward on our moratorium?
Yes, as it relates to the legal stuff, we're working very closely with Darren and Frank, and we're doing a lot of research on these and looking at other municipalities to see how they're doing.
I don't know of any legal issues, Mr. Rosen. What are the legal issues? I'm looking at land use issues, but what are the legal issues? Senate Bill 1A, of course.
That's set up for the
other than that,
moratorium,
what
yeah.
I'm looking at is what legal issues do we have with regard to data centers?
With any amendment to the code, we always coordinate
No,
with...
but I'm asking the lawyer because Mr. Adi said that this would be looking at the legal issues. I don't know. You tell us. What other legal issues are there?
We'll have to see as we delve into it, but there's always, things that you may be asking for, are the exactions, things like that.
Exactions?
So, exactions, yes. So you're going beyond what's reasonable when you're asking for something from the landowner. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, those are
types of
good. And
things.
those legal issues would come from the Attorney General's office or U.S. Attorney, federal? We want to be in compliance with state and federal legislation as well. So will you be relying on those recommendations, sir?
Well, yes, if there's
Very
legal
good.
federal compliance issues, things like that, yes.
Very good. And second issue is, I heard Mr. Brown bring up an issue with regard that we should know who the owners, or who are the, who owns these hyperscale data centers. We did not know that for Project Tango. It was anonymous. Is that, and I'm looking at Mr. Adi, who's the person I should be referring this to? Mr. Adi, yes, you're our contact. Will that be a part of the new revisions that you all are working on?
Yes, we will look at that. Yes.
Good. So one of it requirements is that we in the County Commission know who owns and operates this plant.
Yes, we'll take that into consideration.
No, are you going to take it into consideration, but will you, I think it's important. I think it's important who owns the damn thing,
Commissioner Sacks, are you trying to ask, are we allowed to require disclosure of
That
who?
is something we're going to have to make that determination. I don't know right now, but it's something that we'll look at as we go through this process.
And as my colleague Flores talked about, you'll come back with us on that.
Oh, yes.
Because I know that there are federal restrictions on land being owned and operations being operated by rogue terrorist organizations and countries. So you'll take a look because...
Oh, yeah. We've got the message loud and clear, and that is one of the issues that we will...
Excellent.
Dealing with, yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores, you're recognized.
Darren, seems like SB 180 is always hovering. You mentioned there are 3 hurricanes that are still within that time period? What's the time period after a hurricane ends to when?
So Senate Bill 180 expires October 2027. So that we will be out from under that in October of 2027. However, the statute now says that if we get hit by a hurricane, we are basically put under the same restriction for a year after landfall from that date.
So we're hoping there are no hurricanes.
Yes.
In Palm Beach County.
From your lips to God's ears.
To October 27th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to bring up, I don't know if it's House Bill or Senate Bill 484, that it was about data centers. They also put language in there that it couldn't be a foreign entity. Like there's some parameters, maybe
Yes.
we can't know the actual end user, but they did put restrictions on who
They did, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
So, but you'll find out if we can go beyond that.
That's, I think, what the direction is, and that's what we're going to look into.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I agree with what has been said here. I would like us to absolutely be able to require disclosure and see who the end user would be if possible, if that's allowed. I do like the idea of making sure we have decommissioning parameters in case it is no longer in use. And I look forward to seeing what staff brings us back with the task force. And great job, guys. Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see the motion carries 7-0.
Okay, the next item on our agenda, item 6, self-service storage facilities. This was before the board last month for request for permission to advertise. This is related to first reading, so I can, would you like a presentation on this?
Does anyone need a presentation? I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Marino, a second by Commissioner Sacks. Do we have any cards? 6, yes. We have one card. Ooh, Ms. Johnson.
Hello once again. I was at the July 14th hearing, and there's a little note underneath there that says one member of the public spoke in opposition of the proposed changes. However, staff clarified the proposed revision does not affect the property expressed in the concern. And so the property that I'm speaking of did get done to commercial low office, and it was October 22nd, 2020. And it's the 20B2. If you're not familiar with it, I do have it here. I just wanted to get this on the record that it wasn't, doesn't involve this property. It's a transitional commercial property that is, I think there's 8 lots around Orange Boulevard and Seminole Pratt. And the reason that we did that was for the Orange Plaza. Orange Seminole Plaza. So I'm just going to read this, what I have. Everybody knows I'm Lisa Johnson. I'm from the acreage, and I'm an ALA volunteer. I want to address the 2 separate issues. The first is the proposed self-storage change. I asked the board to remember why the acreage properties along Seminole Pratt, Whitney, and Orange Boulevard were given the ability to become commercial low office. And I think there was another term put in there as well. I asked the 20B2 amendment specifically created an exurban office category for traditional uses adjacent to the commercial node at Orange Boulevard. The county described this as low-intensity office use with a residential design and appearance. The county also said the purpose was allow small office use built in a manner of harmonious with residential uses, completing the existing commercial node in a manner that is in character with our rural community. The approval was office-specific, called for the development to be residential in scale and design and enhance the rural character and preserve and protect the acreage unique rural lifestyle. That is the intent I am asking you to preserve. The self-storage is different from the small office and community service use contemplating when 20B2 was approved. Secondly, Orange, and that was at 0.05 FAR. in that. The secondly was the Orange Grove Plaza. Want to make sure that we're on base with this. I think it's only in such a small lot, it doesn't matter, but I did want to get it on the record. The county own planning language discussed this area as a central community place where neighborhood commercial and community serving uses are clustered with buildings and landscaping reflecting the character of the rural community. We recently had a proposed freestanding emergency department at Seminole Orange Plaza. That proposal was not approved because the proposal 24 operations and impact incompatibility with the surrounding residential. I am not asking you
Ms. Johnson, just because your time's up, what specifically, is there something that you think should be added or taken out?
Just that, just for clarity on the record, that that doesn't, this change of low office commercial to allow
self-storage
doesn't apply to that area. I understand where we were having the gas station. That's totally different.
So I think this is only applying to which tier?
We had revised it after zoning commission so that it would only apply to the urban suburban tier.
So it cannot apply to our ex-urban tier?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
so I'm good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
I have my light on.
Please see if the motion carries 7-0.
I have my light on.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Flores.
All right, so I've spoken to staff about this. I want to share this concern that I have with the rest of the board. I don't know if you've noticed, but these self-storage facilities are like multiplying. They're springing up everywhere. And my district, I don't know why, but it feels like is inundated with these self-storage facilities. These things are, I think, needed to an extent, but I don't know why they're springing up and why there's such demand. I've spoken to PBSO and law enforcement. There is concerns from them too about some of the activities that can occur. Not saying that they happen in all of them, but can occur in some of these storage facilities. They're an eyesore. They don't even have windows. It's pretty much a box in the middle of nowhere. And I'm concerned about at the rate that they're expanding and how they're gobbling up space. Plus the element of the unknown of what's happening inside of there. I don't know if the community really, there's that much of a demand to store things. I'm assuming if they're springing up everywhere, there might be. But I'm just concerned about the rate at which my district is being, these things are popping up. I feel like any new development in my district is almost a self-storage facility. And we have to do planning accordingly for all districts and all commission. And I think what you're putting here is pretty much my entire district. So I don't know what we need to do to clean some of this up. But when we want, in District 3, when we want development, we want a mix of development, not just storage facilities. So I don't know what we have to do from the zoning perspective to encourage other stuff and maybe discourage storage facilities in my district, but it is a concern. I keep hearing it for people. It's like, we don't want a box next to our community. Not too long ago, I brought this up too, because there was a project that was coming in a prime piece of real estate that I thought there's 2 storage facilities right next to it. They're adding another one. And that's on Lake Worth, almost by where it borders our district, Commissioner Baxter, on Lake Worth. But I don't know. I don't know what I can do. I want the board to have an open mind as we move forward with some of these, because I don't know for what reason, but I feel like District 3 is a prime location, I guess, for storage facilities. So I just want to air that out, and I'll be voting against this. Thank you.
Some of the things also are, I'm implying, but like bulk, massing, location, number, the architecture. That's what, okay.
Commissioner Powell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Commissioner Flores, you indicated some of the things that can occur at self-service storage facilities. And because I don't know, can you enlighten us a little bit? And I think it's a legitimate concern if you're concerned about the rate of expansion. And what we're doing here as a board, if this is something that we need to look at further, maybe it can be tabled or we can workshop it here and bring it back. But this is first reading, correct, Wendy?
This is first reading, yes.
So we'll see it again.
Next month, yes. Unless
Okay.
you want to.
I mean, Commissioner Flores, if you brought up some legitimate points, and when I say I don't know, as a planner, I have worked on storage facilities before, but I have seen now we do have an issue where a lot of people are being priced out of paradise, and they are forced to put things in storage. But I do know there's a lot of times people have an affinity just to hold on to things that, people are putting things in storage that are not going to last anyways. But I mean, some of the other things that may be happening at storage facilities, I don't know, maybe people living at them, but Commissioner Flores, what are you alluding to? Say it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so from my conversations with law enforcement, obviously there are people that live out of their storage facility that does occur, and I completely understand that. They're technically not supposed to live there or sleep in the facilities, but they use it as a place that they can store their belongings. If they still get if they get their Social Security or they get a disability income or whatever it is, they use it that manner, and that's not something I'm too concerned about. I'm concerned about some of the stuff that is being stored. It could be illegal items. It could be explosives. It could be drugs. It could be running an illegal business out of that particular location. So there are different elements that law enforcement is concerned about. There's always the unknown of what is actually in that storage. So, and my concern is, why are they all of a sudden like springing up everywhere? Is there such a demand for storage facilities? So, if there is such a demand, then absolutely we'll make it work. Maybe we require them to put windows and make them look more like an actual building rather than just 4 walls.
Mm-hmm.
But I am concerned why they're springing up all over the place. And to be honest with you, I don't know what the real reason is, and that's why I'm asking this board for us to take a further look to see if there is a demand, we'll meet the demand in the community. If not, let's engage with law enforcement and see what some of these concerns that they have are, and let's study the issue a little bit further. But for whatever reason, my district seems to be the prime location. No?
No.
Where do you have some?
We have
I have plenty up in my district.
Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding me?
So maybe it's a rash in the county, but we should. I feel like this is something we need to look.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you. Are you done, Commissioner Powell?
I just was hitting back off of that question
go ahead.
because Commissioner Flores had a legitimate question there. Is there somebody here who deals in storage facilities who can answer that question in terms of why there are so many? I mean, I know part of it is it's low maintenance in terms of if you're an investor, you don't have to continuously go out there and fix the plumbing and worry about the tenants. But I don't know because I don't have a storage facility. But if there's somebody here who I really would like to answer to Commissioner Flores' question.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell, because I really don't like them either. And what happens is that when my mom passed away, we put a lot of her items in a storage facility, and within 3 days, it was broken into. So what that means to me, indicates to me, is that there's an inside deal going on. It's supposed to be 24-hour security. But they saw what we were putting in there. It wasn't anything that valuable, but it was to us. and only the valuable items that my mom had were taken out. 3 days. So obviously, it's an inside job. Difficult to get insurance. And so the bottom line is that we need to check with law enforcement. There's supposed to be 24-hour security. Now, if you have a self-storage that's adjacent to a residential area, that's not good, because you've got the lights, you've got the cameras, and you have a high incidence of break-ins at these facilities. And then number two, in East Del Rey, there's a storage facility where many homeless people are living. Many homeless people. And I went down there when I represented that area. It is not good. It's not healthy. But it is an opportunity for them to have a place, a roof over their head. But it invites a lot of crime. And so I think we need to really take a deep dive before we, as you go through this, so that the next time you come back and we do a workshop on this, let's make sure that there's real security, and that law enforcement is aware that these things are going on. They're cheap to build. Okay? Easy to maintain, right? So they're coming up, and it is an issue. I didn't want to bring it up because it was kind of personal, but definitely it's a law enforcement. And this lady that lived in it, I knew her well. There's a lot of homeless, and that's the only place they can go, is in these places to get some kind of relief from the storms and things like that. So, yeah, this is going to take some work on staff to review it carefully. Thank you all for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
Vice Mayor Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my question would be for Commissioner Flores. Do you think we should push this first reading until you're able to work a little more with staff, or anyone else who wants to, and then bring it back for a new first reading? Like, maybe this isn't quite ready.
I'll defer to staff on this. I mean, I would rather not move forward until we do a full 360 on this and we have a way to move forward. I don't know how long that would take from you guys, but I would prefer that.
Okay. I would support pushing this until it's vetted a little better.
Someone will have to make a motion to amend the motion.
Would we just make a motion to postpone? Or
We already voted.
I can't hear you.
Do we have a pending application that we're?
So there is a pending application, and I've been listening to all your comments on it. We weren't looking to amend the allowances, the current allowances of where self-service storage is. So there's that line of Senate Bill 180 of incorporating more restrictive language in the code for those that are there. This specific amendment was to address an existing site that has an approval for self-service storage in commercial low office.
CLO.
In commercial low office, and they're wanting to expand and are prohibited by the code. So as a step back here, I'm just thinking out loud, maybe this is a relook at allowing it in CLO or just addressing the existing ones and their non-conforming status. But yeah, I guess the motion could be to postpone this a little bit longer.
Well, we need to do a motion to reconsider since the vote was taken. Was the vote counted?
There were 6 of us, so I will make the motion to reconsider.
I already did.
You
I'll
did?
second.
Okay.
I have a motion to reconsider and a by Commissioner Marino and a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. Commissioner Marino.
Contact John Channing. He's built plenty of storage units. So if you have questions, and there's also, we have the ability to give guidelines on what appearance of the building we want. And so I think there are several, people don't even know, we have plenty of them in the north end of the county that you wouldn't even know they were storage facilities. So let's see what's in our hands. Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Yeah, I would suggest you also speak with SROA Capital. They are one of the largest developers of self-storage here, and they're located here in West Palm Beach. I think a lot of this, stems from the restrictions in HOAs. People are not allowed to use their garages for storage, that they have to park their vehicles there. And that is, I think, a lot of the demand. Plus, just people have a lot of stuff. I have, many, I don't, my wife does.
It's because of the cats.
Yeah, you don't know how many containers of cat stuff we have. But I think the other thing, though, is also many small businesses utilize these for storing their supplies to operate their businesses. I've had self-storage units when we were sailing, needed a place to store things. And then when we moved off the boat, we needed a place to put our things before we got a house that we could fill up. And so people have needs for this. And to me, it's a very innocuous use. They're quiet. They don't draw traffic. And they don't disturb neighbors because you don't have a lot of activity there. So done properly, they are very good neighbors. But I understand the concerns that have been brought up by my colleagues, and we'll go ahead and support that. But there are legitimate needs. In fact, I know people who store just their holiday decorations. They don't have room in their house, and their hand went up. Lots of people like to decorate, and they organize them, put them in storage units. So there's a lot of different reasons people have them, legitimate reasons. And not everybody has, the ability to afford large spaces in their homes or apartments to keep their things. I think Commissioner Powell, you brought that up. I mean, as things, economically are challenging for people, they sometimes have to downsize. And they don't want to part with their possessions that they've accumulated or maybe they've inherited. And we need to be sensitive that there are a lot of different needs that people have. But I also understand that there can be, at times, people doing things that potentially are illegal, and that certainly needs to be looked at. So.
Okay, so there's a motion to reconsider. Would somebody like to make a new motion?
Yeah.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
We need a vote called for the motion to reconsider.
All in favor of reconsidering? Yes. Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 6-0.
And I'll make a motion to postpone. Is it time certain, or what do we want to do here?
Well, I think how much time does staff?
Turn your mic on.
Thinking that we just send it back to staff to re-advertise or to rework the language, and then whenever we'll go back through the process again, we'll send it back to LDRAB and the board.
Okay, so a motion.
Remand it back to staff.
To remand it back to staff with instructions. Okay. Based on that.
I'll make a motion to send it back to staff.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Flores, a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 6-0.
Madam Mayor, may I make a quick comment?
Of course.
First of all, I want to thank the board for your reconsideration. I'm thankful for your reconsideration. I didn't think that was going to happen. So also thankful to staff that you're willing to look at this and see how we can, work harmoniously with our communities. I appreciate that. Yep. And to Commissioner Weiss's comments, absolutely. I think there's legitimate use for storage facilities. I'm not saying that that's not true. Mm-hmm. I'm just more questioning the rate at which we're building these and how they're going into our communities and whether there is such a demand and what is truly the demand out there. We want this to also be successful for the business. And if there is some law enforcement concerns, we should also take a look at those while we're doing the zoning for these. And if we find there's something that we want to do, it sounds like October 27th. It's not that far away. And maybe we can clean some of the codes up. We might be able to clean a lot up by October of 2027, Darren.
We have a long line of amendments that we're currently working on for that October
27
date.
deadline?
So
Thank you.
we'll see how November goes.
Thank you so much.
Afterwards.
Okay, moving on. Number 7. We have the workforce housing program on-site construction.
Yes, this is a privately proposed revision to the code, and this was before the board already for phase 1. As you may recall, this relates to a prior application that came through that had a mix of single-family detached homes and they had a multifamily pod. They were proposing to have the off-site workforce housing, but we're willing to do on-site, but we needed to tweak the code as it related to the timing of COs. And I think I probably stole the applicant's theme, but this has been before the board once for first reading. This is second reading and request for permission to advertise.
And ultimately, the goal of this was just to be able to get us more workforce housing?
Yes.
Okay.
On-site, yes.
On-site. Would anyone, Commissioner Marino made the motion, Vice Mayor Woodward second. All in favor? Are there any cards? On 7, before I call the vote, Mr. Knight, do you want to wave in support? Awesome, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see if the motion carries 7-0.
Do you stand to make anything from this?
Okay.
Moving on to number 8.
Item number 8 is a modification to the ULDC specifically for our flood damage prevention Article 18 code. This is request for permission to advertise, and we do have Melvin Corridor, our building official here, to go over a summary and questions.
Does anyone want a presentation?
No, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. All right, would anyone like to make the motion? So moved. And do we, okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Marino, a second by Commissioner Weiss. Do we have any cards on this item? No cards. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see if the motion carries 7-0. Thank you so much, staff.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Good presentation.
Okay, item number 9 is another modification to our Unified Land Development Code encompassing 2 different references. We have our Bioscience Research Protection Overlay and electronic signage. So we are looking to modify that. Would you like a presentation from staff on this amendment?
Commissioner Marino has made the motion. Second. I have a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see if the motion carries 7-0. Okay. Number 10.
Moving right along, Villages of Windsor. This is a waiver of right of first refusal, and we do have Darren, I think Darren, is going to present this.
We've seen a couple of these already, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've seen several of these. These are where we're taking away the right of first refusal, but in exchange, we're getting the ability for the restrictions on the workforce housing units to remain in the event of a foreclosure.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Flores, second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor? There's no cards. Any opposed? See if the motion carries 7-0. Number 11.
Okay. Item 11 is an administrative inquiry. Jeff and I are co-managers on this. It's related to the use of distribution within the Commerce Future Land Use designation. Specifically, we are seeking direction from the board whether or not you would like to have staff work on amendments to the code to create some new uses or possibly clarifiers as it relates to community serving, last mile logistic operations. There are different types of distribution, and we just have one use in the code that's all encompassing. The distribution use is classified as heavy industry in our Unified Land Development Code. In the Commerce Future Land Use designation, heavy industrial uses are not allowed, which would then mean last mile would not be allowed in the Commerce Future Land Use either. So I think we have a summary. Jeff, I don't know if you want to kind of go through the policies of the plan.
Thank you, Wendy. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. So the CMR Future Land Use designation was adopted by the board in 2022. The major components was that commerce specifically allows for light industrial uses, and there's also language speaking to the intent is to accommodate light industrial uses or providing options for low trip generating, non-residential, and or employment generating uses on arterial roadways. Industrial uses allowed shall be limited to those that demonstrate light industrial characteristics. So when Wendy and I talked through this further, we came to the realization that the light industrial classification in the comprehensive plan is in somewhat conflict as far as uses available for Wendy and the ULDC as far as what type of options zoning staff has available. And I'll allow Wendy to talk through that more, but for a distribution facility that's actually under a heavy industrial classification within the ULDC. So I think in summary, we're realizing that zoning staff as well as planning staff, we're limited as far as the options we have available as far as how we can classify these uses. And we're also becoming more aware that there's a lot more nuanced type of uses that exist today that have not yet been contemplated by the ULDC or the plan as far as what type of operational characteristics would it need to exist in order to allow some of the modern uses that we're getting requests for. So with that, I'll pass it back to Wendy.
Okay. What are current uses that are going into commerce?
The majority of the uses that are going in are warehouse and then fitness centers.
So, but within those warehouses, are we talking about like contractor storage for plumbing, electric?
Correct.
And then are those considered distribution?
No.
Why? I mean, people have to go pick up supplies and take it to a house, right?
Yes, it's just, it's an office component, and then the storage of the materials that contractor is holding is the warehouse component.
And so what is it that's not allowed then? So you're saying that last mile isn't allowed?
The last mile isn't allowed. It's considered distribution.
But one that holds a product and then gets distributed to households as needed, and one doesn't?
Correct.
So I think, I don't know if this helps clarify, but it's the way the words are written that's being problematic for staff. And this is the opportunity to make sure that it's abundantly clear for everyone. So the distribution facility definition, it states an establishment for the loading, unloading, and interchange of freight or package express between modes of transportation. So on its face, you may think that that might fit within the CMR future land use policy. However, the ULDC has it classified as a heavy industrial use. So there's a conflict between how it's categorized in the ULDC and the policy language for CMR.
Right, and we find that there's different types of distribution in which you have maybe large semi-tractor trailers and a regional type facility where it's more of a heavier use, where it might go from that regional facility down to the local distribution site in which they're receiving the packages via the semi-tractor trailers, but all of the products are being sorted and then leave the facility in vans or trucks to go either to businesses or the individual homes. And even that has different traffic impacts. You know, you might have a lot more vehicles going out because they're going to the individual homes of their areas. So,
Commissioner Marino, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, a couple of questions. I see distribution centers as being standalone buildings, like the Amazon distribution center that's up in the north end of the county. That's, what, 1 million square feet. You know, if we look at a standard Publix, that's like 50,000 square feet, which would be within an industrial area or a commerce area. I think if we're going to talk about this, we should talk about, one, what is the scale of the building? What are the size of the bays? Because, you know, if you're accommodating an 18-wheeler, your bay is going to be a little bigger. But if you're accommodating plumbing supplies, your bay is going to be a little smaller. And if you're a tenant within a building, if you're just one tenant within a building, I don't consider that distribution. So maybe those are the qualifications or questions that need to be answered about how do we specifically say, you're not a standalone building, you're not 1 million square feet, you're not taking in 18-wheelers, you know, 24/7. You are servicing your local community. I mean, we've talked about this in District 5, where, you know, people want to be able to get their stuff locally. So I think if we can come up with a designation where you could put this within another building, okay, this is just a tenant in a building, not a standalone and the only tenant, maybe that's what can help us clarify it from distribution to first mile, last mile. That make sense?
yes, and that's possibly one of the things that I have it, how proximity to residential, number of vehicles, the size, the type of vehicles being used, so that all, it could either be like a new use, like a delivery station, or a subcategory under distribution, but taking into all of that research that we would have to do to make sure that we have it correct.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Woodward.
Thank you. For this, because distribution is such a dirty word lately, and it's really not. I mean, there are different types of distribution, and, you know, distribution pretty much, it's one large something brings a whole bunch of something into a building, and then it goes out into different areas. That's distribution. So I think we need to come up with maybe a limited area, regional, micro, some language that distinguishes the Amazon type 1 million square feet distribution to the more regional. I mean, a paint supply store it's distribution. It's, you know, I think the pool supply guy was brought up, or landscape equipment. I mean, it's somebody. Certain businesses need this stuff closer to them. They don't want to drive all the way to the other side of the county to get it. And it also would help with traffic if we move these things a little bit closer. So I think the square footage is a big part of it. If we're capping the square footage, the bays, but we need to allow for this type of distribution. I mean, even carpenters, I mean, they're going to get certain supplies for work that they're doing in an area, and they like to do it close because otherwise they're hauling it from some other area. So distribution doesn't have to be a dirty word. Yes. We can define this to make it not like there's two different ones. It's just like we're working data centers in reverse, really, because data centers 10 years ago were this low use, and now we're talking about something much, much bigger. We're kind of taking the Amazon distribution and bringing it much smaller. So kind of flip that on its head. But we do need to define this in commerce, because businesses need access to this stuff locally and not sending their guys running all over, our gals, all over the place to pick up supplies to do their work. So I support moving forward with this. This exists in other areas. Distribution happens all over the place. Yes. Smaller scale distribution. But we need to define it correctly so that there's not confusion and we don't end up with these giant buildings sitting there that nobody wants in certain areas. So.
Yeah, to your point, Commissioner, I think now's our opportunity to provide those clear definitions, so then that way it isn't a scary word. You know, it's a known commodity, and there's an understanding and agreement upon what uses are occurring and how they're going to operate.
Commissioner Sacks.
In fact, this area in Vice Mayor Woodward's district is noted for years to have these distribution centers. Rogers Circle is where I get a lot of my items, and that's been there for many, many years. I believe, is that the city of Boca Raton, or is that unincorporated?
I think it's unincorporated. No, actually, I think it got annexed.
It is
I think that's
excellent,
been annexed,
excellent,
right, yeah.
excellent program. But that's not what we're dealing with here. What we're dealing with here, and it's attached, folks, my colleagues, I want you to take a look at what's attached to item 11, which is this administrative inquiry. What it's attached to, and I see that Cobra is here, is attached to it is an area in my district called the District. And it is west of the Turnpike. It's an excellent analysis that I think should be used in what we're looking at today, because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about 520,000 square feet of district, and they use box trucks, utility vehicles, all types of big trucks. So what they're going to do, and I'm glad that Cobra is still here, God bless y'all, is that they're going to be able to use this new classification to distribute west of the Turnpike, which is close to Canyon Communities, the Valencia Communities, Equus, which is a big equestrian community, and Palm Meadows, distribution with trucks going from those warehouses out to other areas. I'm sure it's longer than 1 mile, but I think that this is an issue that needs to be brought up before the board for that particular area, because one, it's west of the Turnpike. Two, it's very, very close to communities, and maybe the communities would like to say something about having these types of, quote, distribution center delivery trucks going around their communities. So I would like to do what we did before and just wait for a while. Let me talk to my communities about if this is something that they would like to have, these trucks going for the delivery. Could be Amazon, or it could be, people want their stuff right away. There's a cute segment where the guy orders something and then the doorbell rings and it's there, So I'm not sure if this is a proper time to allow this for this area that impacts a lot of the areas in my community. So I'd like to postpone this until I can speak to my district about it. It was done very well in Vice Mayor's Woodward, because that is close to where I live, and I use those. But this is something different. So would it be okay, Wendy, and I'm going to ask my colleagues as well, if I can check with my communities and make sure if this is something that is okay for them to do this.
You sure can. We were just asking if you'd like us to work on this.
Yeah, I think it's good that you work on it, but give me some time to talk to my communities about it.
Yeah, this wouldn't be allowing it. This would be us researching it and coming up with code and parameters.
Good.
And then bringing it back to our Land Development Commission, and then you to adopt it as a unified land development code amendment.
As my colleague Flores has requested, work with us before it comes back, so I have an opportunity to speak to my people about it and get their read on whether this is what they want. And I'd appreciate that before it comes back. Okay?
We're going to have Commissioner Marino and then Vice Mayor Woodward, and then public comment. Okay. You want to do public comment first?
Can I just make a point of clarification? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner. I just want to make a point of clarification that this is just for CMR, right? Because there are already existing industrial land uses and categories that allow for distribution. And that this last mile facility would be permissible in those existing industrial developments. We're only looking at CMR.
We're only looking at commerce, correct.
Okay.
I just did want to clarify, what you're looking to work on, though, as CMR would be countywide and not just tied to the specific project. again?
Yes, it would be allowed in commerce, which is allowed not only in the most of them is coming in the ag reserve, but we do have one that was approved in the urban suburban tier, but yeah.
Okay, and I would like to encourage, yes, we talk to the community, but the small business owners who typically can't come to our meetings, we need to consult with them too, because I know a lot of them, they're having to send people here, there, and everywhere to get, their materials. So I'd like to make sure that they are a part of the conversation as well.
Can we do public comment first, everyone? Commissioner Powell, are you okay if you do public comment first? Okay, please proceed.
All right, I have Brian Kelly, Barbara Roth, Jim Knight, Jennifer Morton, Malcolm Butters, and John Channing.
Thank you. I'll be quick. For the record, Brian Kelly, I'm Vice President and Traffic Engineer with Simmons & White, located in West Palm Beach. I'm here in support of this for further exploration by the staff. I'll be brief. Based on the IT, so the IT is the Institute of Transportation Engineers. I know we talk about traffic a lot of times. So the ITE defines a distribution center, and that dirty word is typically associated with the regional distribution center that you all were discussing, as at least 200,000 square feet, and on average being over 1 million square feet. So that is distinctly different from a small localized warehouse or local delivery facility, which has a much smaller footprint. Much different characteristics. It's not heavy industrial, it's much more light industrial, and there's a much lower volume of tractor trailer traffic. And I would like to, and it serves the local community as well, so it does reduce regional traffic in that sense that you're serving the traffic nearby in the community. And I would like to, and reference the letter, and Commissioner Sachs did as well, from David Menichoff. He is the Associate Professor of Supply Chain and Operations Management with FAU. He does an excellent job. He's much more of an expert in the field than I am, going over the different characteristics between a regional distribution facility and something on a much smaller scale, little localized warehouse. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Hello again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Barbara Roth for COBRA. To be very clear, no organization wants the district to survive and thrive more than COBRA does. We supported the commerce use when it was introduced at the same time as the essential housing use about 6 years ago, and we supported Mr. Channing's application for the district, and we have worked with them in support of increasing the fitness percentage. So we are on record in support of this very beautiful facility, the district. However, at this time, we feel, and we are very grateful to Commissioner Sachs, we need more information on this. I'm not sure if I checked oppose or support on this, because I do support more discussion. I don't want what I'm going to call use and intensity creep to happen in the commerce use. When it was first introduced to us, there were certain definitions of what would be allowed within commerce. We understand that the market has changed in 6 years, and we've been supportive of that because we want it to be a successful location. But we also have to bear in mind what else is coming on Boynton Beach Boulevard. You hear that from us repeatedly. We know what's going to be exactly across the street. The Logan property development is under construction. Erickson Senior Living. We will have something at West Boynton Ranches, which we discussed yesterday. So we have an enormous amount of traffic and intensity coming. And I just don't think we're ready to make this decision. It's not that we oppose it. I think we need a better definition of last mile use, the types of trucks, the number of trucks, and the hours of operation. Someone had mentioned to me a few weeks ago that, well, they wouldn't be during the peak school opening and closing hours when the worst traffic is on Boynton Beach Boulevard. And my response to that was, oh, great, then we'll just have impossible traffic all day long along Boynton Beach Boulevard. And I don't mean to be flippant about that, but this is our concern until we know what we're talking about with this last mile distribution. We do support the business. We want it to be successful, but we need to know more. Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Yes. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Jennifer Morton with J. Morton Planning and Landscape Architecture. Although the BC Commerce Project is the one that generated this administrative inquiry, as staff indicated, it is language that would be adopted and applied to all commerce land use projects throughout the county in the urban-suburban tier and the ag-reserve tier. The purpose of this discussion is to provide greater clarity for county staff, for property owners, and prospective tenants. Many typical warehouse users receive and store products and then distribute those products to customers as part of a normal business operation. These uses should be distinguished from larger regional scale distribution centers that generate a different traffic pattern and have a broader regional impact. Without clear code language, a traditional warehouse tenant could be classified as a distribution facility simply because products leave the warehouse and are delivered to customers. For example, car parts, medical supplies, and building materials may be received in bulk, stored, sorted, and then repackaged into smaller orders for delivery to end users. We believe the code should recognize the operational and land use differences between these uses and regional distribution centers. The language that I handed out today is just a draft and has not been formally submitted to staff. We would welcome the opportunity to work with staff. In this language, we identified maybe a maximum of 50,000 square feet per tenant, or maybe a Class A conditional use for anything larger. Just in conclusion, we welcome your comments and direction and look forward to working with the commission, county staff to develop code language on this issue. Thank you.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Jim Knight still here, and I'm glad that today's going much quicker than yesterday. So I would like to start off with that during the whole commerce discussion and everything else, I did talk about last mile. In fact, unfortunately, the COVID stuff was taking on during that time frame as well. And they talked about PPP products to be able to be stored and go to the hospitals and so forth that are out in that area as well. We've actually had this small scale distribution out here for years. Windmill Sprinkler Company that's out there on Atlantic Avenue has been there, gosh, forever, and they supply most all the GL communities with their sprinklers and so forth, and all the underground pipes and things like that and so forth. It's a small building, happens to be on a larger piece of property, about 5 acres. That is industrial, under the industrial zoning from years ago. But when they brought about the commerce, I think they were talking about these types of uses and so forth out there. If you went to LTG Sports, that's the company that does the AstroTurf. They came in here back a few years back, and they're under the commerce. And so they bring the sports turf in, they cut it up and so forth, and they go out and they put it in the high schools, they put it in the, wherever people want to have the sports turf and so forth. And it's gone more than that now. It's gone into actual individual homes. Lots of people like to have the turf as opposed to the grass. I like the grass because of the squirrels. They bury their nuts, the birds, everything else, so forth. Maybe I'm a little cuckoo. Well, probably a lot. But anyhow, there's companies like that are out there. We also have out there FCC Environmental that's out there, and they pick up the garbage. Well, they're picking up garbage from people's houses, right? They turn around, they pick up the bins, you're recycling and so forth. Well, they go to the facility that's right up the street, the county facility, for dropping that off on 441. And so there's a lot of landscapers also that work out here. They get clippings, things like that, so forth, and bring that into the facility there as well. So I think it's something that should be looked at, but I think we need to keep in mind that really distribution we've been talking about is cross-dock. Cross-dock is the big million square foot facilities, multi-hundred thousand square foot facilities, so forth. We're talking about mom and pop businesses here, and hopefully we can come up with some language and protect the mom and pop businesses. Thank you.
Good morning, Commission. Malcolm Butters, Butters Construction Development. As you know, I'm partners with John Chaney on the district. I'll be brief. Yeah, the whole genesis of this conversation is really to try to help staff make their life a little easier. Warehouse is a permitted use in commerce, and we just want to make sure every time we have a tenant, we don't go through a lengthy 5-month process, that it's easy for staff to define, so we could do that. As an example, we have a small pool supply company that's coming into, they supply, chlorine tablets, filters, et cetera, for all the communities here. So, it's like a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot. I think everyone wants that. I think everyone agrees that that type of use is needed. It takes traffic off the roads, and the communities like Cobra and Bark probably support it. And then Commissioner Sachs brings up actually a great idea. Rogers Circle, I'm a resident of Boca Raton. We've built on Rogers Circle, we've probably built more industrial in Boca than anyone, and certainly in the county. That district has been built out for many, many, many years. My point is that it's existed harmoniously with the city of Boca. Never been any issues. You don't hear the residents complaining about that or broken sound. So I just think, we don't want to get hysterical. Nobody, John and I, do not want large distribution centers. We don't want an Amazon. The point is we want to have a warehouse, and the definition of warehouse, and I've been doing it for 40 years, it's hard to define warehouse and distribution. And we're just trying to make it easy for staff, because I think when I first started, and I think I've told some of you before, everything was called warehouse. Then it became distribution. Now everything is called logistics. So it's just a term, and I think if we could define it with staff, I think we'll make everyone's life a little easier. Because we all want the same. We don't want a large facility. We just need facilities that help service the community. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and County Commissioners. My name is John Channing, for the record, and I am partners with Malcolm Butters. And, I go way back on helping to draft the ordinance for commerce. So we worked with staff on that. And commerce, the intention of commerce, and it's written, is that commerce is for light industrial. It's a light industrial use. You cannot do major distribution in commerce. It's not allowed, okay? So, and the whole intention of commerce was there was no place to go for the small business owners where they can have a showroom. We have one building that's for showroom. So we have carpet people and we have flooring people, but we're doing quite well. Our buildings are built. We're almost 50% pre-leased. Okay, we've opened up for business. We have Twisters in there right now, and a lot of other companies are coming in. And when we met with the neighbors 4 or 5 years ago, this is what they wanted. They wanted to have a place where the small business owners could come and help and come to their communities and be close and not have to travel 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles. There was no place for that. And that's how commerce was developed. And this location is what everybody was happy about. And we worked with Commissioner Sachs 4 or 5 years ago, and we appreciate all the help that she did with us. And she's the one that recommended this 4 or 5 years ago. And we work very closely with her. We work very closely with everybody. Everybody supported what we're doing. Everything that we said we were going to do, we have done. And I'm very proud of this project. And it's really needed for the community. And I think sometimes we're taking things out of context. Like, we're not bringing anything that's going to be a large distribution center. It's not going to be a lot of trucks. These are small users, Okay. So I think we need to go forward with staff, and we're just trying to work with staff since we have a lot of experience in this, and to create something that we can go forward. And this is not just for this area. This is not for the area of Boynton Beach. This is for the whole county. So let's keep that in mind. We don't need to talk to the neighbors in our area because this is for the county. It has nothing to do with that. So I hope we can go forward and move on some language. We have some good ideas.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you so much. Gee, I've got so many friends out there. I can't believe it. But I want to thank you all, Mr. Butters and Mr. Channing, my good friends, for taking that warehouse space, 125,000 square feet, and transforming it into recreation. How much, and Wendy, you may not know this off the top of your head, but how much of that, the district, which is on Boynton Beach Boulevard, which is close to many of the communities that I represent, as well as a new school, as well as Canyons Shopping Center, how much of that district is now recreational? If you know. And okay, what I'm saying is that because you can't get warehouses filled, and we have a huge amount of empty warehouse space. Much of it is in my district. Another one is on, I think it's BBX on Atlantic and 441, huge warehouses. And Barbara Roth, thank you for being on my bus tour. I know Mr. Channing, John, we also on the bus tour. We were surprised to look out the window and see a number of warehouses, empty warehouses. So, a little bit like self-storage, cheap to build, now difficult to fill. So, I'd like to have a deep dive into this, because we need to know traffic patterns. We spent $1 million on a company, had a long review yesterday, a good review, on traffic patterns. So if we're going to be looking at this, we need to look at it holistically. What type of traffic are we going to have on Boynton Beach Boulevard between the school and this huge distribution center, which call it a warehouse, call it whatever you want. And I think that windmill sprinkler system, Mr. Knight's been there over 60 years. That has, when that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the entire county and the area that is in Vice Mayor's district, which has been beautifully done by the city of Boca Raton. I think we want to keep it like that, but I think it's good that we take a deep dive, because what we do not want is more buildings that are cheap to build but difficult to populate. We need businesses that bring us money, businesses that serve the needs of the residents. And we don't need to mix trucks and twisters and recreation for kids. And now we're going to have this with these, with this last mile. It's not a last mile. Last mile out of the district, you're in the Caridad Center, which we talked about, Mr. Channing. That was a wonderful visit. I'm sure that that's the last mile. Last mile brings you to Eques and Valencias and Canyons. So, and I am here for you. I'm ready to get involved with this. Grew up by, by those distribution centers. So we're going to keep this clean like we do with the self-storage. Well, you guys have a lot of work. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. And for some, you may not know, but I actually used to work in distribution. So distribution, it's very clear what it is. And it's very clear what warehousing and when we say last mile, of course, we're not speaking specifically about 1 mile. We're speaking about the final delivery to customers or local businesses. And I think Commissioner Marino, I think she really, it has to do partly with the scale of these operations, but what the real purpose is. And I think that's important that we understand that. So it's a final delivery to customers and other local businesses, that would be something I would support. It's not a redistribution to other warehouses. And I think if you look at the outbound vehicles, so the ones that are leaving, what are they? Are they, vans, box trucks? But they shouldn't be other semi-trailers. Occasionally it might happen, but that should not be the predominant vehicle. On the inbound side, allow them in, but you shouldn't have cross-docking, right? Because cross-docking is really, that is distribution by definition. That you allow temporary staging and sorting, that be allowed. Truck terminal activity is prohibited. Regional distribution is prohibited. And traffic require that the applicant, and I think this is what Commissioner Sachs was getting to, require the applicant to disclose the expected number of daily heavy truck, delivery vehicles, and employee trips, their hours of operations, and the number of loading positions. So I think that all those things could help you come up with standards that we could apply to differentiate between, a small business or a business that is in the business of either supplying customers or other small businesses. You can take, HVAC supplies, pool supplies, there's lots of things that we need to maintain our homes and our communities that we would benefit by having them stored locally, where they can be and I hate to use the word redistributed, but that ultimately that's what we're doing. We're redistributing them out to other businesses and end users.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think staff's passed around some proposed language, which I think is definitely a good start. And we all have it. And I would equate it to being similar to and when you look at the use chart or use table.
Excuse me, Commissioner Powell, that was an applicant that put the text language in front of you. It wasn't staff.
Thank you, Whitney. An applicant brought us some language, which I think is a good start. Staff probably should look at it. And it similar to me, it would seem like inside of the use table, we have vehicle or equipment sales heavy and vehicle or equipment sales light. And I think with distribution, it sounds kind of similar along those lines, but this would be obviously only for commerce. So whether it's commerce heavy, regional, or commerce light, looking at the intensity and maybe as the commissioners have said up here, even the floor area that's being utilized for for distribution does make a difference. So I think as you reevaluate this and really start to dig into how we should move forward, I think it's in good posture to have maybe a couple or maybe even a few mid, heavy, and light, some type of way to determine how to do distribution. Of course, it would impact other zoning categories, but I think it's definitely something that should be looked at. Thank you.
Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess the question would be, how does a first mile, last mile center like this support commerce and light industrial? I mean, that's really what we're looking at here. And again, we're not looking at a 50-acre parcel. And I realize those large, developed, but empty logistics centers are not what we're talking about. We're talking about a very localized, specific environment for the businesses and the residents in the community, whether it be in West Boca, Palm Beach Gardens, Tequesta, Boca, West Palm. And we can limit how we do this. We can limit square footage. We can limit, it can't be the single user. I mean, there's many things that we can do to make this be compatible and help the businesses that it's surrounding. And I think that it's incumbent upon us to do that. You know, we could do grade level doors, we could do small bays, but again, it needs to be limited in size, it needs to be limited in bays, the doors need to be limited, the hours of operation for an 18-wheeler coming in, but what I think you're wanting from us today is to say, I think this is something you should look further into. Give us our options to make this work or make it not work. But, you know, show us where this has worked in other places, if this is even something that happens someplace else. But again, this is not about a 50-acre site with a 1 million square foot building. This is about a bay that is part of another building. It's not a standalone, and it's not the only thing that's making that whole complex work. It's in support of what else is there. So I think that's what we need from you all, is to really give us some specifics about how this could work in this type of commerce. And I would look forward to the continued discussion, and I think it is something it's worth our time to investigate. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
I think the last thing I've heard what everybody has to say, and I sort of agree with most of it. I think Commissioner Weiss made some good points about specific definitions that we should consider, so that's something that we should take into account. But I think that the component that we're missing here is that this is B2B, right? So this is business to business, not business to individual.
It could be. It could be business. It could be the supply going to a business, or it could be the supply or the product going directly to the house.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're delivering it themselves. That last mile. Right. We need to give businesses an opportunity to do business with other businesses, which I'm assuming they would be the ones bringing the box truck or bringing the van, and then they're providing their services because they picked up the material or whatever it is, whatever goods they're going to use to then provide that service. We do have to provide an environment for these businesses to be able to thrive. We got to remember, these are going to be local grown businesses as opposed to Home Depot. Home Depot is a national company who takes their money elsewhere. So I think that's what we have to kind of think about here is, like, do we want the Home Depots of the world who are not a local company, whose investment in the community is not that much other than providing jobs, which we want them here, by the way. But do we also want to foster local businesses who are providing local services to our local residents and businesses? So that has to be an environment that we want to cultivate and that we want to continue to thrive. If there's anything that I get a little squirrely about is when we start interacting with the children, because we in this particular case, there's going to be a part that is going to be for recreational.
Yep.
So we want to make sure, from my standpoint, that the truck routes don't interact as much with the children walking in and out. Now, usually when there's box trucks or vans, they're going to use the loading area. And I'm assuming that's what's going to happen here, which is a different path where an individual will go into these recreational areas. So as long as that's clearly labeled and marked, I'm okay with moving forward with this. But we do want to cultivate our zoning and our rules that are also will provide our businesses an ability to thrive and be. And and Commissioner Sachs, I went on that trip, on that tour. By the way, thank you for doing that. The lunch was excellent. We should do it again. Maybe next time we'll do District 3. We can go and look at some storage facilities. Absolutely. We'll take a whole county trip. But, you know, I think some of those warehouses out west are still relatively new. And, you know, I think in time, they will fill out. So I understand that your concern about having empty warehouses, but hopefully we will bring businesses in here. It seems like Palm Beach County is a prime location, so hopefully those will fill out. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. I do tend to agree. I would like some clearer definitions going forward, and I think we've had some good feedback from everyone on what that includes. You know, the scale, the size, not necessarily putting children activities near loading areas is definitely a great idea, Commissioner Flores. And I just think for clarity purposes, when people are applying, they need to know what exactly is allowed versus not, and just make staff's life easier, make their life easier. So anything we can do to help facilitate a more friendly process. I think that was it. I have no lights. You have direction. You did it.
So we've been given direction to work on this, so we will be working on it.
Amazing. We are finished with our regular agenda. Moving on to comments. Any staff comments?
We do have another item.
We had an add-on.
Planning,
Excuse
zoning,
me.
building legislative summary. And I believe Whitney Carroll and Cindy will be kind of giving the board updates on what's happened with the legislature for 2026.
Mm-hmm. How it affects our building department.
I can make down one. Or Tuesday. Okay.
You say you'll be back?
Speak from this side. So join me at the table is Cindy Hoskin, the Deputy Executive Director for Planning, Zoning, and Building. And Cindy and I are going to, basically, I'll just intro the reason why we are bringing this item to you is that it seems the state is year after year adding more and more legislation that impacts growth management and land development regulations and the building division. So we wanted to highlight some of those changes for you that came down from the 2026 legislative session and highlight some of those things that you may no longer be reviewing at the Board of County Commission level, and just give you some highlights and answer any questions you might have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cindy and let her run through it. And you should have the PowerPoint at your dais as well.
Okay, I'm going to skip past the introduction because Whitney just did it. The first bill we have, bill that we have to discuss is Senate Bill 182, and it involves private school siting, but only as it relates to Palm Beach County, only with 150 or fewer students. We provided to you in all of our slides a before and after kind of comparison so that you would see what our previous processes were before the legislation and what it is now, or the changes that would have been made or are made. So prior to this legislation, it didn't matter how many students were a part of the private schools. They were considered under a Class A conditional use and were allowed, except in urban redevelopment area, overlay, MUPD, institutional FLUs, et cetera, which require DRO approval only. The new regulations exempts 150, again, private schools with 150 or fewer students in from conditional use approvals, and it is allowed in commercial and mixed use districts and they no longer require public hearings. The local regulatory authority, prior to the legislation, is subject to private school-specific site plans, pedestrian, bicycle access, vehicle circulation, et cetera. Now it exempts private schools, again, with 150 students or less, from these mitigation requirements. And the only thing that local government is now allowed to look at with these schools is proportionate traffic and pedestrian measures. However, the traffic and pedestrian safety mitigation is now possible to be kind of overcome, if you will, by a study that the applicant can propose in lieu of any mitigation measures. Location criteria, I think I've basically run through that it was generally considered as part of any other criteria. Now it is, it has the exceptions, but they do still need to demonstrate compliance with the Florida Fire Prevention Code. Next is House Bill.
Excuse me, Commissioner Marino.
Before we move on, this is a little confusing. So, do they still have to pull a permit to build?
Yes.
Okay. And so it says here compliance with Florida Fire Prevention Code. So they're still pulling a permit. We're still inspecting the building.
Yes, construction for, yes.
Okay.
That has not changed. And the fire prevention aspect of it is for things like drive lanes and the more site criteria rather than construction criteria. Okay. House Bill 399, there's a kind of a lot to unpack in this one.
You're familiar with because we were here yesterday and we were doing the policy amendment to allow for the compatibility standards. That is what 399 this does, and also just reiterates that we have to go and revise our LDRs as well to emphasize the compatibility standards and make them more objective. So that's probably all we need.
Okay. Moving on. Senate Bill 484, I think you're very familiar with that. Prior to this legislation, there was no specific legislation on large-scale data centers. As the board has just approved the moratorium, I don't think I need to further explain that. Next one is House Bill 927. It is, we call it the qualified contractors legislation. This provides for an option for an applicant to hire what is called now, defined now as a qualified contractor. Prior to this legislation, there was no such thing. If an applicant hired an agent, they hired them privately. It was a contract between them and the applicant and the agent. This legislation requires the county by January of next year to establish a registry of qualified contractors that applicants can look at and choose from to perform pre-application reviews. There is no mandatory criteria as far as approvals. The county does have to accept their reviews, but they don't have to approve them. This bill was a lot more onerous before it finally got adopted. There was a lot of criteria that were musts that are now mays.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor Woodward, you're recognized.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, this is interesting. You said there's no criteria for us to qualify them?
Right, so go ahead.
There is to qualify the qualified contractors, yes. They do have to meet a registered architect, a registered engineer, an AICP. There are some eligibility requirements that are necessary for them to join the registry.
And we are the ones that would be qualifying?
Yes, so there are certain, prior to this, the current adopted version, there was no opportunity for the local governments to qualify the qualified contractors at all. So now there is some, and the licensing requirements is definitely one of them, but it also allows people who don't hold licenses to be put on the registry. So with those entities or those people, the county does have the ability to have some criteria to qualify them. This registry is not mandatory. An applicant can still choose anybody they want, can work with anyone they want. It's rather cumbersome, frankly, because the way the statute's written, it requires the applicant to pay the contractor, but they pay the county, and then they get billed, and then we have to then pay the contractor. It's really...
It's a pass-through payment.
Yeah, it's really
so
interesting.
It's going to be interesting.
If they don't use someone that's on the qualified list, you said we still could process it, or we can't
Absolutely.
process it?
Right. Yes, you don't need to use a person who's on the registry. You still absolutely can use any agent or anyone, and you can contract directly with them and not use the county as a payment pass-through. Absolutely. I believe that the legislature probably established this for smaller counties or municipalities that maybe needed extra help in their processes, and was going to get more, or is going to get more involved with that relationship between the contractor and the applicant. I mean, the county has no intention of getting in the middle of that relationship. Unfortunately, with this statute, we are required to get in the middle of payment. So if there's disputes, yes, should be interesting is the right word. Because if there are disputes as far as whether someone should or shouldn't be paid, how we're going to manage that, we don't know yet. So interesting is a good word. The next is Senate Bill 962, and its companion was House Bill 1389. These are both live local amendments, if you will. What they did is prior to the legislation, it was silent on whether farms or farming operations qualify as, in essence, commercial properties. And I believe that the reason that the legislature put this in is because if you have packing houses, in some communities, those are considered commercial operations. So the legislature clarified here that does not count when it comes to the live local amendment. So, excuse me. So that is one change. The other, and also it added, expanded the properties to, in addition to commercial and mixed use and industrial, it expands it to local government properties, school districts, and places of worship meeting specific criteria. And in all of those cases, the government, the school, or the place of worship are required to be co-applicants in any development that comes under the Live Local Act on those properties. Places of worship, it requires the place of worship to maintain its business on the property after it's developed. So it forces any of these entities to stay in the development and be part of it after it's built. It excludes open spaces and parks, and any property containing recorded easements. Another change that it made is the height restrictions. Prior to this legislation, setbacks and stepbacks were not treated different in the analysis of Live Local. Now it is very clear that it prohibits the use of setbacks or stepbacks or any kind of other similar dimensional standards to restrict height.
And just to, sorry.
No, go ahead, Whitney.
I just wanted to update the board as well that as of today, we have not had a Live Local project in unincorporated Palm Beach County.
Well, on that, and thank you for bringing that up, because it reminded me of a question I have because we're on the Live Local topic. Are we allowing our housing bond dollars that we have out there to be applied to Live Local projects?
I think that's going to be a further discussion point. I believe that's coming up maybe at a future date to discuss. There is a Live Local project, I believe, in the Village of Wellington that might be coming through. But yes, I think Patrick was working on that.
And when is that scheduled to come back to us, Mr. Rudder? Hi.
The Live Local funding.
When is the Live Local and Housing Bond Dollars topic coming back to this board?
On the housing bond dollars,
Are
what's
we
remaining,
allowing housing bond dollars to be applied towards Live Local projects?
if you would if they came through on the pre-approvals, that could be part of an application, yes. When you get a housing bond project, this board reviews them before they go hard, before the money is spent. So if a project came forward that was using Live Local that had eligible projects,
So if they use Live Local to circumvent going through us, the process, and then they use our dollars towards
that could be an ask in this board. That's why this board would pre-approve them and see them. And before we went to full financing, the board would say yay or nay before we bring it back in final form. So you would have a chance to say no for bond money, if that was your decision. The way you've seen them with other stack, when you look at the financing stack, some of them have many, many different forms, and this board has looked at them and said that, that's acceptable. You've looked at them and said you wanted to see the income targeting at different levels as well. This board will make that decision.
Mayor, and maybe this is a question for Whitney too. We haven't had a Live Local project in unincorporated Palm Beach County, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every Live Local project would fall outside of the realm of what we allow and circumvent us, does it? Whitney?
Can you clarify the question?
So the mayor indicated if they're circumventing our process by using Live Local, or what we allow to get extra units, or to maybe get extra height, or whatever is the additional allowance for Live Local, that could circumvent what we allow by code. But if it's in a municipality, we don't have jurisdiction over that, but they could fall within the confines of what the municipality allows, perhaps, and still receive Live Local benefits?
That would be my point, Commissioner. Projects that this board sees in the zoning world are what you have regulatory control over. Ones you might see preliminarily, and then in final form on the housing bond money, they come in the form of cities. A question you might ask at preliminary is, how did you attain achieving the number of units you have there? Do other local governments have bonus density programs? Do they do any number of ways, and then also including how they achieve their financing?
Do they receive a lot of tax benefits from using Live Local?
They are available, how any given applicant chooses to utilize them. And I keep going back to it, but when you see them on a preliminary, when they're asking you for the bond, you'll see all that financing. You have that chance to ask that question.
So when you bring this back to us, because I don't want to get too far off of
Gotcha.
what we're here for today, it's a discussion I think we should have.
Understand. Yep.
Commissioner Sachs, did you want to?
We could, yes, exactly. Also, the issue of that prohibits setbacks, step-ups, any type of things that we would like to see in our development, and how does that compare with city restrictions? This is a big deal. They could go 5, 6, 8 stories high with no setback. So what I would request, and this is what you're talking about, Mayor, if we could have a lawyer's explanation as to Senate Bill 962 and House Bill 1389, exactly what and I'd like to see the committee explanation and how it relates to the county, because this is bigger than Senate Bill 180, and it really could determine a lot of what we can and cannot do in terms of building. I think it's warranted. Thank you, Mayor.
And to clarify, the height restriction that is now been implemented, that's so that you can't, like our code requires you to, based on the setback, if you're beyond the regulated setback, then you'd have to step the building back. So the higher you go, the more you would step in. But
no, we don't do wedding cake. The height limitation that we have in the code is 35 feet. If if some developer in industrial or multifamily wants to go above 35 feet, they do an additional setback for the entire building, 1 foot for every 1 foot that they go above. So this is basically saying they could have a 15-foot side setback and be 45 feet.
As high as they want to go.
As high as, yeah.
Want to go, which is
jurisdiction allows.
really
The height
within a mile.
limitation is limited to 1 mile within the same jurisdiction.
But let's
Within the
make sure
jurisdiction.
that we get all the little nuances on this, because I can just see developers now coming in, so I'm coming in, the Live Local Act, we're going to do a skyscraper here next to whatever. And, we need a real deep dive into this if you could. And I would request the bill, or actually the law, and all of the discussions on it from the committee staff, and then your recommendations as well. Okay. Thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up.
Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Next one is Senate Bill 1434, the Infill Redevelopment Act. We do have one, I wouldn't call him an applicant, or prospective applicant, that has made it, expressed interest in proceeding under this act. Prior to this legislation, there was no defined parcel that was called environmentally impacted parcels. Other than what would call and what would be considered like, oh my gosh, I can't think of the words, brownfields or those types of properties. This act now creates a definition of environmentally impacted parcels. This also only covers, well, let me back up. The definition of that environmentally impacted parcel includes that it has to be a minimum of 5 acres, adjacent to residential zoning, excluding rural service areas, ag lands, public parks, and land within a 1/4 mile of a military installation, and public utility-owned lands. So those are considered what this Act now calls qualified parcels. So everything under this act is only applicable to, quote, qualified parcels, which is the definition I just gave you. It allows for, or requires administrative.
Excuse me, Cindy. Vice Mayor Woodward.
Sorry, the new definition that you just gave us, did you say there's actually only one parcel that would qualify, or there's only one parcel that's applying?
There's one pre-applicant who has made it known to us that they have a project they want to proceed under this act. We haven't
Do we happen to know how many of these parcels in the county, or is that something you can get to us? Because, I mean, this is, it's a strange definition to try to capture where these are.
Right. And most of them are going to relate back to the golf course conversion types of projects. And so, yes, we can get you that information.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Sure.
It does require administrative approval of qualifying single-family and townhouse developments. The density is based on adjacent residential zoning and limits buffer requirements. It requires publication of administrative approval procedures on our PZB website, which we are in the process of finalizing now. I think that's about it on that one. Next one is House Bill 589, and it refers to on-site sewage treatment and disposal systems, otherwise known as OSTDS. And prior to this legislation, when a permit applicant submits a building permit, it is required, a building permit application, it was required that the Department of Health septic OSTDS permit be provided as a prerequisite for the issuance of that building or plumbing permit. This legislation removes that requirement and only requires now the applicant to provide proof that they've made an application to the Department of Health when they apply for their permit. The risk here is what you would imagine it would be, that prior to getting a Department of Health permit, if you proceed construction because you now have a building permit and for some reason you're not at the right elevation or the Department of Health criteria doesn't match with what you've proposed, you are now at risk because you now have potentially conflicting requirements. So, you know, that's written in the statute that the applicant is at risk. And they assume, literally the language in the statute, that they assume legal, financial, and safety liability arising from construction prior to the issuance of the Department of Health OSTDS permit. We are working with the county attorney's office to develop an affidavit or acknowledgement of this so that it's very clear to an applicant that's proceeding under this that they are at risk and it's to be careful and cognizant. I think the intention here is not to delay building permit issuances because they're not getting the Department of Health permits as timely as we're able to issue building permits. So I believe that was the intent, but there is clear risk factor here.
And Cindy, real quick, I didn't ask on the previous one. I had a question.
Sure.
This golf course one, was this the one that gives the residents the option to buy?
Purchase. Right of first refusal.
The right of first refusal on that property?
Right, yeah, I believe they have 30 days to close once they receive notice.
And I think the golf course has to be closed for, is it a year? I believe it's 12 months.
12 consecutive
12
months.
consecutive months. And then they could potentially offer it, if they're going to sell it, then they have to offer it to the residents first.
Right, and the residents can either pay, I believe it's 10% more than the legitimate offering price of a,
Because of their short closing period, and I wanted to talk to the board about this and ask for some feedback, I think it would be good for us as a local government to let people who know that live near these properties that could potentially qualify for this, what could potentially happen. And maybe at least give them the opportunity to start planning for it now. And I didn't know if the board would support something along those lines so that if those communities didn't want to be at risk of somebody buying out their, open space, let's call it, and having a bunch of homes there, that they can start now planning, putting together those finances too, or having HOA meetings and see how they would like to proceed forward. Commissioner Weiss, was your comment on this or the previous? Yeah, I just missed. Okay. Commissioner Marino?
How many golf course conversions do we have in front of us right now?
I believe we have at least 3 in process right now.
And they've been in process for quite a long time, right?
Yes.
So this wouldn't qualify.
Unless they abandoned that application and then came through administratively.
And the golf course was closed.
And the golf course was closed, right.
Well, most of these golf course conversions, the courses
they'd
have
have to
been
meet the
closed
criteria.
for
Correct.
a lot more than a year or so. And do we have any inkling of any?
Sorry, go ahead.
Do we have any inkling of any others that may be coming to us?
Well, the pre-application meeting request that we just recently had or have in front of us, so we do know that they are looking, and we do know that there are agents that are watching closely when we post our policy and want to understand how we'll be looking at this, because we are analyzing the density requirements and all those things, and what we're going to put out there as far as the policy. And then obviously they have to come to us with the eligibility requirements met I think the environmentally sensitive or the environmentally impacted parcel has strict requirements, or it's at a brownfield or something like that, that it's already
it has
been
to have a type
designated.
2
Yeah, so if it's already designated, then that's already been designated with the state, so that requires the cleanup. So if they're going to go to that length to acknowledge that it's that type of parcel, then they've already committed to doing some sort of cleanup at that point.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't see any objection to notifying residents that this could potentially impact. So thank you.
And I think if you don't mind, Mayor, we can piggyback on what Vice Mayor Woodward asked to identify the eligible golf courses and then possibly bring that bring that back and just say, these are the parcels that either we can do an outreach or we can contact them in some way or another.
Perfect, thank you. We can go back to the other one now, and Commissioner Weiss had a question.
Just briefly, so they take on financial liability. Is there any requirement that they have the financial wherewithal to be able to cover that liability?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
Next one is House Bill 803, and it relates to building permits and inspections and a few other things that were tacked on. Prior to this legislation, single-family permits had a 6-month expiration or term. The new expiration is now either 1 year or until the next edition of the Florida Building Code. So, the building code revisions come out every 3 years. So there's a potential that, that a permit could be in effect for, 2 or 3 years if you just obtain your permit after the latest revision. The work less than $15,000 in value prior to this was subject to a 30-day review time frame. Now it requires 5 business days, as long as the application is sufficient. Permit exemptions. So this is unchanged for Palm Beach County. The statute changes, but currently we have exemptions for permitting for things like replacing plumbing fixtures, replacing tile, countertops, minor repairs, $1,000 in value, door replacements, things like that do not require permits. In counties where there are properties that are not in flood hazard areas as defined by the Florida Building Code, there are new exemptions. All of our properties have flood hazard designations. So the added exemptions are not applicable in Palm Beach County. Additionally, private providers, there is legislation, prior to the legislation, private providers were authorized for plan review and inspector under locally administered fees and forms. This expands private provider use and access, and it limits further our fees and audits and procedural requirements. Factory-built housing, which we'll discuss this again on another bill, it allows manufactured homes that are not currently allowed, prior to this legislation, manufactured homes were not permitted in single-family districts. This now requires equal treatment of manufactured buildings, manufactured homes, and single-family districts. So wherever a site-built home would be allowed, a single-family home, we now would be required and are required to allow manufactured homes. There are provisions in this legislation to allow us to develop architectural standards or reviews. We currently do not have them. So if we are going to look at compatibility as far as that is concerned, we would be required to develop specific criteria that would have to apply to site-built in addition to manufactured. In other words, parity, equal across the board. There's a commercial design change. Prior to the legislation, local glazing window open area requirements were what they were. Now it limits glazing requirements on certain commercial and mixed-use buildings. Okay. Next is Senate Bill 290. It's a Florida Department of Agriculture and Community Services bill that affects TDRs, certain TDRs, and rural event venues. Prior to this legislation, I'm sorry. My bad. Prior to this legislation, there were no preemptions as far as developing protocols for rural event venues and creating, whether it's permits or licenses. This legislation preempts the county from creating a license or a permit for a rural event venue, which they have now defined, on ag land that's classified by the property appraiser. So if the county did want to proceed with some type of a rural event venue license or permit for those types of venues that are not located on the classified lands, we could still look at doing that and expand what we would allow. We are preempted from having any of those types of requirements, being licensing or permitting for what is now defined as a rural event venue. It did not change the allowance for local governments to still regulate what is called substantial offsite impacts. So that's still in play. Things like traffic, accessibility, potable water, sewer treatment, all of those things that we would all, determine to be substantial offsite impacts that could impact neighboring communities are still in play for review. We have been looking at, and as part of our ULDC reorg, one of the things we're looking at is identifying the current criteria, not new, but current criteria that exists in our code, and kind of creating that list so that people who want to have more agritourism and rural event venues have a more concise area to look and get information, as opposed to having to kind of feel through the code and find it themselves. So that is part of one of the things we're doing right now with respect to that. The change to the TDR is only on, so prior to this legislation, there was no statutory prohibition on TDRs for surplus lands. This change now prohibits local governments from allowing TDRs on government surplus land that the Florida Acquisition and Restoration Council determines is suitable for bona fide agricultural use. We don't have anything identified as of the moment. I don't know that we ever will, but that is a change that was made.
To clarify, it prevents us from requiring TDRs on that land to develop something?
It prevents us from allowing them to be sold and assigned to that parcel.
To develop it.
To develop, yeah.
If it's suitable for agriculture. So they want to maintain it as agriculture, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But surplus land too. We would have had to have surplused it, and then this group would have had to say they've also now identified it as suitable for bona fide ag use. So it's a very finite group. I'm not sure where they were focused on for this.
Thank you.
Sure. Other legislation. So Senate Bill 594, this, although it's not a PZB necessary item, it does allow now mobile home owners are eligible to receive SHIP funds for lot rental assistance, rehab, and emergency repairs. We mention it because we do have code enforcement operations within mobile home communities and on mobile home lots. And so this provides an opportunity for mobile home owners under certain criteria to be eligible to get funds to help them with both lot rental assistance as well as to rehab or to do repairs. Senate Bill 686 is known or called Ag Enclave or Agricultural Enclave Bill. It amends the definition to include multiple parcels, and if it's certified, if an application or property is certified as an Ag Enclave, it removes the public hearing process. We have discussed this with the planning division, and they believe that there are no parcels within our county that would qualify as an ag enclave. We're monitoring that to see if we've not had anyone express any interest, and they've not identified any parcels that would qualify. Senate Bill 504 and 506. These are rather identical bills. They both are regarding body-worn cameras for code officers. It requires the county to have policies and procedures and maintain records, et cetera. We already have that criteria. As you, I think, all know, we have body-worn cameras, and we already have policies in place that do that. And we work with the sheriff's office for training and our record retention and everything. We work very closely with the sheriff's office in that, and they help provide our training as well. House Bill 929, that's regarding the cheeky huts. The only change here is that it allows for a maximum of a 10-foot side yard setback. So in any property where a side yard setback would exceed that, we would be preempted from requiring anything more than 10 feet in the side yard. It also allows for a minimum of a maximum of a 10-foot separation between structures with respect to fire approvals. So with respect to fire approvals, it has to be at least 20 feet. Otherwise, the separation is now 10 feet. And anything as far as any other fire prevention code is still applicable, and it does not remove the requirements for if there's plumbing or electric or anything like that. Those would still require permits. The actual cheeky hut would not, but any plumbing and electrical would. House Bill 1103 allows local governments to enact ordinances to enforce certain anchoring and derelict vessel violations subject to FWC's rulemaking and approval of any ordinance that we would put forth. We do have an ordinance on the books that involves derelict vessels. That's being reviewed, though, with the county attorney's office. And then if any changes we would want to make with respect to that, we would obviously bring back to the board, and it would also have to go to FWC for approval. Last but not least is House Bill 4035, and this is our local bill for the Construction Industry Licensing Board. Prior to this legislation, if you wanted to obtain a license, you were required to, or you were allowed to get certified by the board prior to passing the exam. And so what happened is people would pay for that and go through that process and then maybe not be able to pass the exam, and now they've spent money and they can't use it. None of the other licensing, the state doesn't work that way. The state, you're only eligible, you only meet your qualifications and file your paperwork to get your license after you've passed the exam. This just changes it, and now we're the same as the way the state does their licensing.
A question on the previous one for the anchoring. I mean, again, my district is not on the water, but do we have any current ordinances or ones that we are looking at now if we're allowed to do this?
We have an existing ordinance.
Doesn't
Yeah, it involves us and We've had some conversations because there's some criteria that we believe needs to be added to that ordinance in order for us to make sure that it's effective and that we're following all legal guidelines that we need to follow with respect to appeals and due process and things like that. And now, should we make any amendments to that, we would need to go through this process with FWC. If we were to move further and decide to start enforcing in that regard, first of all, we're not, code enforcement doesn't have boats, but we work with Palm Beach County's sheriffs, and sometimes if we have major issues, we can be involved, but the sheriff's office can also cite. So that's why it's not been a priority, because they have the ability, Fish and Wildlife has the ability, a lot of the the entities that have water patrol have the ability to do this, and they already are doing this. So sorry, go ahead.
Mayor, if you don't mind, because a lot of this is in my district. There's also a cost involved, yes, and the recovery and the notification to the owner.
Right.
And there is a trust, not a trust fund, but there's a fund right now, but it's not very large for removal of these vessels. So it is a very long process, but it is constantly under review. So it's not something we're allowing to fall through the cracks. It's just that enforcement and funding and removal are very difficult.
Because we have a lot of derelict vessels that are just
Sitting there,
Sitting
and
there.
and people are wondering why they're just sitting there. And a lot of it is notification to the actual vessel owner.
Right.
And then the removal process, who pays for the removal process, and so who's going to recover those dollars? And it's very expensive. So, yeah, this is
Right, and it's very akin to, like,
and
it's
who's
like towing
again,
a
whose
vehicle.
jurisdiction is it? Is it Palm Beach County? Is it state of Florida? Is it open waters? There's it's a big involved process.
It's a lot. And it's like if we were to tow vehicles, you have to impound them. You have to give the owner the right to recover the vehicle. And if these are derelict in the first place and they fall apart, now the county has potential liability to replace a vehicle that the owner may say was in a different condition than what it was found in, and then it becomes another potential risk. So there's. Go ahead.
What was the purpose, do you think, of the legislation then, to say that we also have to go through the FWC process?
The ordinance would have to go through the FWC process. So
I'm not sure. Maybe it's a coordination issue. I'm not. Yeah, jurisdictional.
That was part of our questions when we reviewed our ordinance in the beginning was jurisdictional.
Mm-hmm.
And, do we have the authority from the state? Is the state allowing enforcement through us for them? Is that's what's happening here, or are we doing our own? And then do we have that jurisdiction? Because it is navigable waterways, so we don't have jurisdiction necessarily over navigable waterways. Some areas we do, some areas we don't. So it gets extremely involved.
Mm-hmm.
Simple.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Simple. So that concludes our legislative update. Unless you have any further questions, we will turn it over to Wendy and Rajesh, who are going to be demoing the brand-new zoning dashboard for you all in the public that will be eventually public-facing.
Of course, Commissioner Flores, you're recognized.
Hey, Cindy, how are you? So yesterday, I talked a little bit about the mobile home bill that we tried drafting, and obviously it got vetoed. Would you mind explaining to the board some of the issues that we have encountered when trying to address some of the concerns, life safety concerns at some of the mobile parks? One in specific, we don't have to name the specific one, but just use some of those instances so the rest of the board can understand. I think there was 350 violations.
Of the violations, yes.
Would you mind just letting the board know what some of the issues that we're having and how hard it is to try to get compliance in some of these issues because of the lack of responsibility, or who do we hold accountable?
Sure. Chapter 723 is the state legislation that governs mobile homes. It identifies mobile homes as a vehicle, not as real property. When you have mobile homes that are located in a mobile home park, not on owned land, so not somebody who has their own lot and puts a mobile home on it. So when you have, a large accumulation of mobile homes in a mobile home park that is owned by a park owner who is not the owner of the vehicles, Chapter 723, it is very circular. It does not, how do I say this? It does not appear to hold the mobile home park owner accountable for the condition of the vehicles, the tenants on their property. It puts the full responsibility for these violations on the tenants. The tenants don't own the land, and the violation is a vehicle violation, not a property violation. However, when these are people's homes, and so when someone who owns these homes improves them, uses plywood, makes additions, does all of those things, that now becomes a code violation, a building code violation, because it is a structure, and it's an illegal structure, and it was built without a permit. And in some cases, it's very unfortunate because you have people who take advantage of other people who are financially disadvantaged and allow people to live in these structures, additions. And so when we have worked with PBSO, we've worked with Fire Rescue and multiple other agencies, and the tax collector's office, even as far as trying to have jurisdiction over the larger entity being the park owner, to get them to assist these mobile homeowners who don't have the financial abilities typically to do what they would need to do. And in some cases, they've modified their unit to the extent that it no longer even qualifies as a mobile home anymore because there's certain criteria. I won't get into all that detail, but the DBPR then comes into play, and the DMV comes into play as to how much change has been made, whether it's still a vehicle or it's not. And I know I'm giving you a lot of information, but I guess I'm trying to explain how complicated this is, and none of this that I've explained do we have jurisdiction over. So we do have jurisdiction when it comes to, like I said, somebody constructing a structure. But the responsible party, that's where it becomes rather difficult to hold. Who do we hold accountable? How do we do it? The cost of recovery, which is one of the things when I brought up the fact that SHIP funds are now available to mobile homeowners, is specifically to have that conversation because it does allow mobile homeowners to apply for and are eligible to receive SHIP funds. But we drafted legislation. We initially drafted it as a local bill, and we're told to not do that and draft it as a general bill, so we did. And we simply attempted to clarify, remove the circular logic in there that was causing the issue, and clarify what criteria that some of these park owners and the mobile homeowners truly have. Because in any other situation, a landlord is responsible for their property and what happens on their property in addition to the tenant. Chapter 723 removes that responsibility.
Excuse me, Cindy. Vice Mayor Woodward, you're recognized.
Thank you. A couple of questions, because Commissioner Flores had indicated working on this bill last time, and you said that we were going to present it as a local bill and were advised not to.
Correct.
What was the reasoning behind that? Because it was indicated, I guess there's a lot of areas in a different part of the state that maybe would really push back on this, but if this is a Palm Beach County issue and we're not trying to change the entire state, why were you advised not to do it locally?
I think our local delegation was not going to support that, and that's what I believe we were informed of.
Our local delegation, as in our local House of Representatives and state senators from Palm Beach County? I don't recall us having that discussion with them as a board. I think we need to have that discussion with them as a board in the next discussion, when we have our joint meeting. I mean, I'm sure he'd like to lead the charge, but I would like to support his efforts and, tell them, get over it.
Well, look, PZB would love, we drafted the language. We would love to have that come back again and keep trying to do this. It would just be the right thing, frankly, for all concerned.
And you said 300 violations. How many of those would potentially
319.
be? 319. I mean, are types of violations
in one community.
In a single park. Okay.
We actually had more than that.
I mean, there's
but
a
those were the
story
most
to be
egregious.
told there that would help paint the correct picture for our delegation. I'm happy to support in this. And if SHIP funding has now been able to be used, what SHIP is housing, that's what the H is in SHIP, right, is housing, not vehicle. So it seems like they're already kind of like, yeah, this is housing. There's a path for that. But I do think that doing a local bill is the way to go. And if we need to I'd be happy to talk to all of our delegation on this, and they need to get on board with it. So I would be supportive. I just wanted to make sure who advised us not to do that. Sure. Okay, thank you.
And there was, in the last session, it wasn't exactly the same bill, but there was a bill out of the west coast of Florida that had bipartisan support. It had bipartisan drafters that sought to do something similar to what we were trying to do. So we have spoken with Alessandro and Ryan about maybe reaching out to those legislators if they were going to propose anything this year, and maybe look at the language we were proposing along with what they're proposing, and if they're going to do anything. Theirs failed as well, obviously.
Well, there's bipartisan support on this board, so I think we could get bipartisan support in the rest of the county too. And I'd like to partner with them as well.
Sure.
Commissioner Flores, you're recognized.
So I think what the state tries to do is to protect mobile home owners, as they should, and they should be protected. What we're trying to do is clean up a community, make sure that they're safe, and we're not trying to displace anybody. That has been, I have echoed that to our staff, and the problem is that I think there's a mentality that perhaps we're using tactics to try to displace them, and I don't think that's what we're trying to do. So what we're trying to do is keep them living in a humane manner. I mean, we have people in Palm Beach County living in substandard conditions. Substandards. And if you want to go, I will go show you. They don't even have bathrooms. They're taking their waste in buckets. We have some of these 2x4 constructions that have been added on to some of these mobile homes with no AC, no insulation, no nothing. So they have added on carports, porches, different, and this has been allowed by the property manager and the owner. This has happened right under their noses, and now they claim, oh, I don't know how this happened. So remember what I told you yesterday, the Spider-Mans, the three of them pointing at each other? This is what's happening. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, you add another layer that sometimes the owner of the mobile unit is not the actual person living. So then there is, now you have the landowner, you have a owner of the mobile, the mobile home, and then you have renters, not even one. And they claim that this is affordable housing, right? But yet they charge $400 a piece cash. And there might be 8 or 10 people living in a single wide. These are the standard, the living conditions that in this particular park that I'm using as an example, and I don't want to call it out here, but these are the living conditions that we have in Palm Beach County right now happening. And that's why I'm so involved in this with our staff and why I care. I say it's a life safety concern because they're supposed to be 10 feet apart.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Because if there's a fire, the idea is that it won't spread.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Most of these units are not 10 feet apart because of the add-ons or because over time they have moved them or shifted them to try to add another unit. So it's a cash cow, primarily cash, and there's no accountability. And then we have, in my district, I have people that are living in a mattress on the floor. It's bad. So that's why this bill matters, so that we have to be able to hold somebody accountable. If we don't, then we're going to continue to have these living conditions in the county. And the owner of this park owns many different parks in the county. So this is just one of the many. So thank you, Cindy, for everything, and your team for what you have done.
Absolutely.
I have a question. And my heart breaks for anyone who lives in those kind of conditions. I think everyone probably has something, or most of us have something similar in their district. the problem that we keep running into is, where do they go? So say we start enforcing, I mean, they're living in terrible conditions. Where do they go? I mean, clearly, if they had better financial means, nobody would choose to live like that.
Right.
Then what do we do?
Right. And that's been, definitely the forefront of the conversation has been the not wanting to displace these individuals and to try to improve their living conditions. And if the park owner could take some sort of ownership in that, then that would possibly help to maybe fund a revision to the unit or a new unit or improvements to the unit or those types of things. But they've not been part of the conversation to help facilitate that.
And say we start holding these landowners responsible. What if they just go in and kick everyone out? I mean, we have point in time, counts.
Homeless count.
The homeless count, right? Is that going to skyrocket where now we have everyone in these
They do have
parks?
certain protections. You can't, the property owner could, yes, it's the same eviction process. And if the landowner decided to sell the property, then there are certain provisions that have to be adhered to as far as displacement with those mobile homeowners as well.
But as far as if they were just to try to evict, they would have to go through the same process as anybody to evict a tenant. It would have to go through the courts. And the mobile home owners, I'm sure, would fight it and have opportunities to do so in multiple different ways. In the particular place we're talking about, we do know legal aid is assisting some of the mobile homeowners. And those that are illegally subdivided, we don't have the authority to just walk in a door unless somebody allows us to go inside. We have sent unsafe structures out there. We've looked at everything we can as far as safety, but unless we're invited to go inside a unit, we can't. So the things we can see from the street, like these
If they're doing
structures.
plywood additions, right, probably not safe at all.
Right.
And if you have again, very poor financial means, and your option is, do I sleep out in the weather? Or do I sleep under, a 2x2? I'm just trying to, what is the goal here? Are we we're cleaning it up, but at what expense? What are we aiming for?
Can I answer?
Yeah, please.
What we're aiming for is to keep our people safe. I think safety is paramount, and that's why government is in place. If we found out there was 319 code violations because of safety, then our job is to make sure that our people are safe. I just mentioned they're supposed to be 10 feet apart because of if there's a fire so it doesn't spread. The majority of these vehicles are not. So now we have been alerted, now we know. Now it's up to us to take action to protect these people, because if there is a fire, we knew and we didn't do anything about it. And by the way, this is not just the only park, because I have the city of Palm Springs is on me about to try addressing another one that we have issues with. And I can't fight too many wars at the same time. So we're using this as a sort of like a study, case study to try to see how and what we can do. But just the first meeting that we had like 12 different departments in one meeting to try to figure out what do we do? But I think what our responsibility from government is to protect and keep our people safe. And right now, they are living in unsafe conditions, whether it's because it's electrical and it wasn't inspected, because there's no proper grounding, because people are living in poor conditions, or because of a fire. We have fire rescue go out there, and they had majority of these citations are fire rescue.
I do want to clarify, because I don't want to leave anyone with the impression that we walked away and didn't condemn those units and that they are living in literally unsafe conditions. They're not permitted. They're not physically, they're not sound structures. There are some issues with these structures and things. From the physical, from the outside, we are not seeing the electrical disconnections, things like that would lead us to believe that there is a fire hazard from the exterior. But as Cindy said, we have not been on the interior of those units, so we don't know what's going on the inside. So, but we have gone, with this particular one, we have gone through and we have brought fire rescue with us. We have brought our building division unsafe structures with us. We have
Department of Health.
Department of Health, and we have, of course, been partnering with community services, in case there was a displacement of some sort, FP&L, in case there was a disconnection that needed to be made. We have done those types of things to make sure that there is not physically or visibly, we cannot see an unsafe situation. We would never want to leave anyone in that situation. So to protect you all, that is
And please
not.
don't misunderstand me. I absolutely don't want anyone to have to live that way. I don't want anyone unsafe. Absolutely not. I guess my question is, what do they do?
What's the alternative?
What's the
Right.
alternative is
So,
what I'm trying to get at.
Frankly, to Whitney's point about the sale, let's say if a mobile home park owner went to sell the park, there are statutory provisions that they have to provide to the tenants. Relocation, they have to find them alternate locations there's all kinds of requirements, statutory requirements, if they're going to sell. If we have similar provisions in a statute that said something to the effect of, if they allow these conditions, because they're allowing them. I mean, to Commissioner Flores' point, this is right under their noses, and in some cases, not in some cases, in all cases, they are financially benefiting from this unfortunate situation. They're collecting rent.
Well, and that's terrible too. And you think that's most of the time?
They're absolutely collecting rent.
Okay, Vice Mayor Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to really point out, this is a business. They are collecting money. There's a landowner who is collecting money on the space that he's allowing mobile homes.
Right.
And then most likely, there's a mobile home owner, multiple, who is collecting rent. And Commissioner Flores indicated the dollar amount that's being collected, we're talking $3,000 to $4,000 per month per unit.
And there's 600 plus units in this one particular development.
This is egregious that there's a business operating, collecting $3,000 to $4,000 a month per unit on how many, we don't even know. They're cramming them in closer than is allowed or should be allowed.
Right.
It's a life safety issue, but it's also like this is unacceptable. I mean, it's borderline, we're encouraging a slumlord at this point.
I think that is the conversation that potentially is happening with legal aid.
Okay, I get that we are limited at this point, but I would just, they need to be put on notice that this is coming in the next session. This has to be a priority for us. If this is happening and we're the circle of three, Spider-Man, I like that analogy, I don't care. There are people financially benefiting from cramming a whole bunch of people who can only afford, what they don't know, $400 for a room. Doesn't even sound like they get a room. They get a space with a roof over it. Maybe it's plywood.
Mm-hmm.
This can't stand. So whatever we can do, get in there as much as possible. But our legislative people, I'm going to be making calls this afternoon. I'm sorry I was unaware of this. I think all of us, we need to be made more aware, and our legislative team definitely needs to be made aware. Thank you. They are benefiting financially. This is a business. A very, very bad business to be operating in our county.
Lastly, I think it is awful if somebody is financially benefiting off of somebody living in horrible conditions. Sure. My only question was the alternative.
Right.
Okay, so, and again, I will support whatever you guys think is best moving forward to help. I want us to be aware that I think most normal people wouldn't choose to
Sure.
live that way.
Yes, it's very difficult.
A roof over your head is,
Okay. And that was it?
That was,
all
yes,
right.
but now we want to turn it over, and it looks like Amit has joined as well.
Yes, so the last item that we have is that we want to unveil a benefit that's not only for us internally, but for the public. And it's a new dashboard that our awesome OTI team has put together for the zoning division, planning division, building division. And so they are here. We have Amit to my right, and then Rajesh and Sanjeev behind me. And they're going to show, ultimately unveil it to the public. We've unveiled it to you, our new dashboard.
And it's live currently?
We're hoping to have it live somewhere in September. We have one thing that we're still working through, which has to do with our notification that we will talk about. So do you want to add anything?
No, this is just on the development phase, but we are, like you said, we are just going to go live in, I'm sorry, I'm Amit Samant, I'm the Director of Application Services on behalf of OTI, Palm Beach County, and we just have this mock-up and it's all development already, ready to go live in the month of September. Some small nuances, and we had some feedback from other commissioners too, so we're just going to incorporate that in the dashboard as well. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rajesh Tiwari from OTI. So I'll be presenting this dashboard. This is zoning dashboard, and the landing page shows basically all the in-process zoning applications. And we can see like there are at present 201 in-process applications. And out of those 201 in-process applications, we have 139 administrative applications, 8 legislative applications, and 54 public hearing applications. Now, in case you want to focus on any particular type of applications.
Excuse me, would it be possible for you to put that on our screens, please? Thank you. And Commissioner Sachs, did you have a question?
No, I just had a comment.
Okay. Please.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed, and I'm shocked that I have so many. Maybe I need another, I don't know, 8 or something. But this is impressive, and it's impressive because we have asked staff before to give us all new applications coming in, and thank you, all of you, especially you, that you have done it, because I see applications that have come in after we have approved certain conditions, and then they come back to you for other conditions. So, and one of them was completely shocking when I saw it. Thank you so much for sending it to us. So this will be, we will be able to operate this ourselves, which is wonderful, and I want to thank AI, our tremendous technology staff here. So that was my comment. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in case you want to focus on any particular type of applications like administrative, we can click on it, and then it will show the district-wise breakdown of those applications. So we can see like for administrative applications, we have 17 in District 1, 42 in District 2, and likewise for other districts. And then we can also see the breakdown of those applications on a map. So we can see basically their distribution on the map as well. So this is basically our just in process applications. And at the bottom we have a tabular view of all those applications. So we can see all those applications, and in case we want to see further details of any applications, we can click on it. And then we can see like the application details, request, applicants, agents, and likewise we can even look at the history also, all the history that is associated with that application. So all the details are here.
Can we look up past approvals as well?
Yeah.
In history, and when projects were approved? Oh, perfect.
And then we have this subscribe feature, and we have several levels of subscribe feature. First one is basically application level subscription. So in case we want to, if we are interested in updates on any particular application, we can click on it, and then we can put our email address and subscribe to that updates on that particular application. In case we are interested on district level updates, then we can basically click on particular district, and then we can click our email address, and we will get status updates on all the applications in that district. And likewise, we have all district level updates. So in case we are interested in all applications in our districts, we can do that as well here using this subscription feature. So this was in-process applications. And next we can go to Overview tab, which shows all the applications in process, given completed applications. And we show the data since 1/1/2020. And this also shows the breakdown again with district-wise. So we can see all these applications, how many are in what district. And then we have a search feature as well here. For example, in case you want to search on any particular applications or all these applications, for example, let's say you know the address 5677 Atlantic Avenue, so let's search. You can search all those applications basically, which which have like keyword or likewise basically, or in case you know the name of the applicant, so you can search by that as well. So this is a very useful search feature to basically narrow down on the applications. And then next we have basically map view, which is again in process applications on a bigger map view. So you can basically focus on any particular district, and this has much bigger area dedicated to just the map view. And in case you are interested in any particular application on the map, you can basically click on it.
Sorry for the distraction.
No worries. And it shows some details on that map view as well.
Take credit.
Like application number and some details on about that application. So this is the map view. After the map view, we have reports section, which is basically reports on these applications. So we can see here like what is the trend of submitted versus completed applications, how it's going like with time, and then we have like the status breakdown of those applications, and then the key insights. So we can see basically new application submittals are 19.2% down in last 30 days. And we can also see that the most active district is District 5, so maximum of applications submitted are in District 5. And the top application types are administrative applications. So this is key insights, and we can add even more key insights as per feedback if we want to track anything else. And then the last tab is links, which are just useful links about like public hearing notices and zoning division agendas, hearings and meetings, and planning agendas. So we have these useful links at the bottom. So this is all we have in the zoning dashboard.
Could you go back one time and just show where the subscribe button was? I think that was important.
Yeah, subscribe. Yeah, this is the subscribe button. So this is application level subscribe.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Perfect. Thank you so much. So we have been, as a board, I think, talking a lot about transparency and letting people know what's going on and when. So this is a huge step towards that. So thank you so much for all the effort. Thank you, Tracy, for pushing this forward in a very quick fashion. It's been amazing. Thank you, everyone, for making this possible. It's been absolutely a long time coming.
Thank you. Are you able to show them the building division one at this point, or not yet? We're also working on one for the building division as a dashboard as well. So I do want to also thank Tracy and Emmett and their team. Under Tracy's leadership, we've seen so much advancement in technology, and the visible changes that are being made are just so exciting. So thank you, Tracy and team, Rajesh, Sanjeev, Emmett. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. We have a few people that would like to say something. Commissioner Sachs.
I just want to thank you, Tracy. You brought in a whole new generation of access, transparency to government. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. And I said this to staff when I saw this, but this is absolutely a great job you all have done. This really is. I mean, to create an opportunity for the public, for people working in this building, to be able to access this information, and very easy to find, stay informed if they're interested in a particular project or property. So that's, you've done a great service to this county, and so thank you all. Thanks for the great ideas, and I'm sure we're going to continue to see great things out of OTI.
Commissioner Flores.
Team, good job. I love the transparency. I love being able to share this information with our residents. I bet you the agents and the planners and the owners are going to be thrilled. Is there a button that they can hit and complain? That'll be next.
Email address.
Is there a speed up button? We should do, like, if you click this button for $1,000, we could like push it a week or something.
Revenue.
Yeah, we can monetize this page, but not being serious. I love transparency in government. I think everything we do, and I think that's why we have the Sunshine Law, is that it should be in the public's eye, and I think you guys are doing just that, so thank you.
And thanks, Pat, as well, for the
Vice Mayor
vision.
Woodward.
Thank you. No, I loved when you showed me this. I can't wait for it to be live for us to play with it. But also, we get a lot of questions from residents and certain projects that really generate a lot. So that subscribe button is going to be huge. And when we can direct them or even help them. Well, we can put their email in for them if they contact us. So this is a great start. I'm really excited to getting my hands on it once it's live. Thank you,
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I want to thank the team, Tracy and Pat and everybody down here who have worked so diligently to put this together. And even what Commissioner Flores indicated with the agents and planners, I mean, it makes a big difference because if you're a planner or you're an agent, you submit an application, you can also see what other people have submitted. And if you're an agent, you see where we are in real time in terms of how long something's been submitted, where the comments are. I think it's excellent. And it even provides a lot more information than what's there now. I was a little concerned at first because I was like, well, man, I know whenever you know an old system, you know how to get into it. And now a new system is coming along. I was like, oh man, this is going to be a little bit rough. But it appears to be much more easier, much more transparent, and I guess more navigable for just the common person to be able to maneuver it. So thank y'all for putting this together, and it should make things a lot smoother. And I'm looking forward to the building department one as well, because having worked through the planning process and then working on building permits, you can see where things are, but being able to move those things quickly or more quick makes a huge difference. So thank y'all for putting that together.
This is also in one location too. Our current dashboard has you clicking in multiple locations and gathering data from one screen in order to enter it into another screen. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Yes, and Wendy and her team have been obviously instrumental in feeding the information and work going back and forth. So it's a team effort, and you can see how busy they are. So thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comments, we'll adjourn.
I also want to just thank the administrator because he definitely has been pushing the OTI team to innovate and improve since he started, and we want to make sure that we show a lot of applications that are more modern, and we do have meetings scheduled to show a few more things that are coming up for the public and for the commissioners as well.
Who is that you were referring to? Who are you referring
Administrator.
to? Administrator.
The guy behind the scenes. Well done.
So, Commissioner Flores. Are we doing Commissioner comments? If you have comments, we did them. I think we've done 2 days of them. If we have more.
Yeah, I do want to address something. There was a report last week of perhaps an employee did not conduct themselves in a proper manner. And I know our administrator has made some public comments already regarding the county's addressing the situation. But I wanted to take this opportunity to express my own sentiments on this. I do not condone any hate or discriminatory behavior from any of our staff. And that does not reflect the values of this county. We are an inclusive county. We respect everybody, and that is, at least from my standpoint as a commissioner, that is a behavior that should be displayed by all of our employees, whether you're a commissioner, whether you're administration, a manager, or an entry-level position, you're just starting out. We treat people with respect and dignity, and that is my expectation moving forward. I know that this is a report. I know that there is some administrative items that are happening right now, but whether this is true or not, I wanted to put that message out there that we do not condone this behavior. If this happens to be true, I expect our administration to deal with it in an adequate manner. But I just wanted to put that I wanted to put that out to the community because I know I've received a lot of questions whether this is true or not. I don't know. I know that there are some images floating out there. I also understand there is a couple of versions out there. So it is not my job to be involved in this investigation or however we're going to be dealing with this, but I did want to make comments regarding my expectations from our staff, how we treat each other, how we treat our residents, how we treat our employees. Everybody deserves respect, dignity, and it just happens to be you're a human, we treat each other in that way, regardless of race, gender, beliefs, or whatever it may be. So I just want to make that comment, and I know our administrator is handling this situation, so thank you so much. I know you've been, Administrator Abruzzo, you've been on top of this, so thank you.
Commissioner Sacks?
Of course, I echo what my colleague has said, and let me just add that I think in the last couple of months, with social media, things have become very intense, very in your face. But we have also had very good information from our administration as well. There's those mornings that we hear everything from what's going on in the county that comes from the administration's office. That's good because that keeps us in the loop. We don't have to look at social media to know what's going on in our county or with our staff because we hear it from our administration. And that is very, very good. And then on a lighter note, if I may, we had such a good time on that bus trip. I would like to see, and we did this in the legislature, I'd like to propose that we all, I'm not directing staff to do anything, but I'm asking us at some point, let's talk about getting everybody together at a picnic when it gets a little cooler outside, or something that we can do all together as part of our Palm Beach County family. And I think it would be nice. We don't have to have a basketball game, but we could certainly have a big family picnic, get to know each other a little bit, and have some fun, and see our children and our families, and even bring our dogs out. No cats allowed. But I think it would be nice because it just reaffirms our commitment to each other and get to know each other a little bit. So we'll think about that, Mayor. This is also in your purview as well. And I just wanted to sort of...
Are you volunteering your residents to host this picnic?
I am. But we also have beautiful parks, and a wonderful big picnic out in the park would be really a lot of fun. So I just wanted to keep it on a light note and but reaffirm the fact that we hear about this from our administrator, and we don't hear about it. The worst thing is to hear about it from social media, and I think that's very important. So as we move forward, maybe we could do something all fun together. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Flores. I think that, and to speak to the public on this, what was reported, and I have to say thank you to the administration. They reached out immediately once this was brought to light, informing not only myself but the rest of the board of this possible situation, the steps that were being taken. But there is a process. I think, as Commissioner Flores said, if this is true, there's a process and it will be addressed appropriately. But it's unfortunate the times we live in that for whatever reason, and it's not necessarily what's being alleged in this specific situation, but in general, that we find ourselves not able to deal with each other simply because of who we are, who we were born to, how we practice our religion or not practice at all, that people can find a way to continue to divide ourselves up instead of looking at ways that we come together to support one another. This community is an amazing place. It's diverse. We come from different backgrounds. We're able to live together peacefully, not only peacefully, but actually enjoy living together and celebrating those differences. And we can't let these stains of individuals determine our future. And I want to thank, the public has reached out, and I understand their concern and wanting to know that action is being taken, and I can assure them it is, and I did respond to them. But this is a wonderful community, and I'm not going to allow an incident like this to determine who we are, nor should any of us. And so I appreciate everybody's support. And thank you, Administrator, for your leadership on this. And I know you're handling it in the proper way. And if it turns out to be true, the appropriate actions will be taken.
I have no more lights. Administrator, would you like to say something?
You're just going down the line.
Oh, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to echo the sentiments of my colleagues, I agree with everything that was said with regard to there's no place for hate in Palm Beach County. I want to thank Administrator Abruzzo for keeping us informed on all of the situations. Last week was a interesting week, to say the least. Congratulations to Shannon Ramsey Chessman, who has taken over the role as the clerk of the court. She is my 2011 classmate of Leadership Palm Beach County. So congratulations to Shannon. I also I talked a couple days ago about the Office of Small Business, and I just want to continue on that track because the Office of Small Business Administrator Abruzzo is doing such a good job with these registration and certification. There were to line that up, there were a few businesses that I want to give a shout out to publicly for being certified on last week. Active Metal with Kevin Rambley, Alvin Legacy Group with Sayla Alson, Confidexa Solutions, that's Patricia Clicks, and David Severin Properties was David Severin. Those programs that we put together that some of us have reached out, and that staff stays late on weekdays to help assist people work right through that process. And as government, when we can help people to start businesses and create businesses, small businesses drive our economy. So again, last week I give a shout out to the Office of Small Business and that team who have worked so hard. I also want to thank my staff who works to put those together with us, because we'll continue. Teresa Lawrence, Tridrick McCoy, and Malcolm Summons in my office. We really, really appreciate the work that's happening there, Administrator Abruzzo. So we want to give them a special shout out and continue to uplift that office when they work on these tremendous programs. I'd also like to request an off-site proclamation for Sophisticated Out Loud and its 10th year anniversary that will be happening on August the 29th.
I have a motion, and I have a second by Vice Mayor Woodward. All in favor? Any opposed? Please see that the motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. And with that being said, those are my comments. Remember, a life of service is indeed a life that counts. And I want everybody to have a wonderful, safe, prosperous, and healthy weekend.
I would like to recognize Commissioner Flores.
Just one last thing, because Commissioner Sachs talked about the bus, getting back on the bus. We are going to be proclaiming Hispanic Heritage Month next month. We are going to be doing pictures with the bus and that whole thing we always do. So I want to make sure you you're aware, the first, when we do proclamations, we're going to be doing that picture. But we're also doing a bus tour. So if you or your staff want to join us on that tour, I don't remember exactly when the date is. I know it's a Friday. I try to keep it on a lighter day. But you're more than welcome to get on the bus with us. And we're going to, I always feed my people. Joe knows. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the sentiments of my board. We do not condone or want any sort of hatred. And I would like to thank the administrator for your prompt response to this and how you've been handling it. It's been very professional. It is greatly appreciated. And thank you to my board. We had a very long day yesterday. And I think we should all enjoy not this weekend, but the following weekend we'll have Labor Day weekend. So I want to wish everyone a happy Labor Day. Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Board. And first and foremost, you heard one bit of the new public-facing components today, but we're going to be rolling out many over the next few months. And I say this sincerely, that all came about from your leadership and your direction. You've expressed to me things that you would like to see, the way you would like to see it, more transparency, both for the public and also for the vendors that do business with the county and their ability to bid fairly and openly, and we will be presenting that. And again, that wasn't something we thought up, that was all from each and every one of your leadership. On the comments about the employee, I will say this, due process is in place, and I should have an update for the board by the end of the day tomorrow. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Okay.